But despite the suspension, the school's 630 capacity dormitory was set ablaze Sunday in a daring incident that occurred at 10 a.m. Firefighters from Siaya County were immediately called in to try put out the blaze. The dormitory that went up in flame houses for one student. Bondo Deputy County Commissioner Richard Karani said an investigation had been launched with reports indicating that 3 students had been arrested. The Council of the Law Society of Kenya has called on the authorities to launch an investigation into the murder of lawyer Boaz Nyakeri, who was killed Saturday. Reports indicate that Nyakeri was stabbed by unknown persons near Masai Lodge in Rongai. In a statement, LSK Chief Executive Officer Mercy Wambua said the responsibility placed on advocates as court officials and human rights defenders placed them at a relatively higher risk of possible attacks by advisories. She said that the assailants, who seemed to have been trailing him, stabbed him on the neck but did not steal anything from him, leaving a lot of questions as to the motive behind the attack. She now wants the government to put in place strategies to ensure that advocates, magistrates, judges as well as court officials are provided with adequate security and protection from any form of harm, threats, intimidation and attacks that may arise as a result of the nature of their work. Now, Kenya recorded 29 new COVID-19 cases, bringing the country's caseload to 255,437. Healthiest Muthui has said this was from a sample size of 2,933, recording a positivity rate of 1%. The cumulative test stand at 2,855,076. 185 patients are currently admitted in various health facilities countrywide, while 807 are under the home-based isolation and care program. Now, ODM Chief Raila Odinga toured various estates in Nairobi, where he continued to sell his Azimio la Umoja initiative ahead of the conference, which will take place on December 10th at the Moi International Sports Center in Kasarani. Addressing his supporters, Odinga warned Kenyans against discrimination and called for a united country free from ethnicity. The ODM boss was flanked by several leaders, including Kieni MP Kanini Kega and nominated MP Maina Kamanda. The former Prime Minister is expected to formally declare his 2022 presidential bid on December 10th. Deputy President William Ruto's UDA party got a shot in the arm after Nyeri Governor Muthui and Tetu MP James Gishui joined his United Democratic Alliance party. The two made the announcement when they accompanied Ruto to pay for church in Tetu during Ruto's second day of Nyeri tour. He said that the DP is the most suitable person to succeed President Kenyatta, adding that he will ask Nyeri residents to ignore any other person telling them the contrary. Gishui was more categorical, saying that he has officially joined UDA after listening to his constituents. Now, rescuers in Indonesia raced to find survivors in villages blanketed by molten ash after the eruption of Mount Semeru killed at least 14 people and left dozens injured. The eruption of the biggest mountain of the island of Java caught locals by surprise, sending thousands fleeing and forcing hundreds of families into makeshift shelters. At least 11 villages of Lumajang district in East Java were coated in volcanic ash, submerging houses and vehicles, smothering livestock and leaving at least 1,300 evacuees seeking shelter in mosques, schools and village halls. To sports, and Lewis Hamilton won a crazy, twice-halted Saudi Arabian Grand Prix to send the Formula One World Championship into a winner-takes-all final showdown with Mercedes driver and Red Bull's Max Verstappen leveled on points. On a chaotic night of soaring emotions in Jeddah, the inaugural race in the Gulf Kingdom took almost as many twists and turns as an already astonishing and enthralling roller coaster season. There were crashes, safety cars, red flags, claims of dirty driving after Hamilton hit the back of Verstappen's suddenly slowing car, penalties, collisions of extraordinary exchanges between race driver Michael Massey and the top two teams. 7 times world champion Hamilton took the bonus points for fastest lap to level with Verstappen on 369.5 points after 21 races. This is Newswire. I'm Dennis Asseto.
I hope you don't believe that hustler is a poor person. Hustler is a person who is making his a living through hard work.
The group of leaders we are having now, Kenyans, listen, the chemical composition is the same. You will mold them to ODM, then NASA, you mold them to Kanu, mold them to Jubilee, mold them to any other different color sometimes, but the chemical composition is the same.
It's not about me as Nurdin Haji, but it's about the constitution that I swore to protect. So when individuals attempt to hoard those powers and they want to be investigators and also prosecutors, then of course I have to defend that position because that position is in the Constitution and that's what Kenyans wanted.
I'll tell you what happens is that when you ignore court orders, you're creating and quoting anarchy. Then you create a very dangerous precedent.
A story is told of the first president of the country who also went to visit Mathare, presidential tour. And of course, he went to this place and he introduced himself. So one of the enemies says, hata wewe kuna jina kama yangu.
The Situation Room, Kenya's biggest conversation.
SpiceFM, Nyeri.
Monday morning, what are we looking at? It looks like it's going to start really early today. Mombasa looks like it's going to be something. A lot of construction going on here. The diversions have become more and so traffic has already started to build up. We're seeing some traffic building up on the southern bypass as well. Jogo Road is also a thing, and quite early so. In most parts of the city, doesn't look too bad, at least not for now. Kamkunji at the roundabout already spilling over onto Haile Selassie Avenue, but in the CBD, it's just kicking off. The Thika Superhighway also, some traffic just past Survey at the Utali Drift, heading out into the city. It's picking up at a few minutes after 6 o'clock this Monday morning. We're going to have a look at what it looks like in a short while, but doesn't look too bad for now. If you haven't left, now might be the time to do so. If you have, well done. You won't be stuck in traffic this morning. SpiceFM KE on Twitter, text 40127. Let's keep things moving this morning.
Are you ready? Okay.
Spice FM. This is the Situation Room, the home of hard-hitting political commentary and penetrating insights about the state of the nation. This is a talk radio experience like no other. The Situation Room, a place for hard truths, debates, and elevated conversations. The Situation Room, witty, political, engaging, deep, controversial. In the room, we have C.T. Muga, researcher, academic, seasoned political observer, a fountain of wisdom in these politically uncertain times. Ndu Okoh, Nigerian by birth, Kenyan by choice, communications expert, Pan-Africanist, a truth seeker and believer in people power, and Eric Latiff, agent provocateur, the man in the chair, seasoned journalist, news hound, a man who believes in punching up, not down. This is the Situation Room.
It's 9 minutes after 6. Very good morning to you. How are you doing? Welcome to Kenya's biggest conversation, the 6th day of December 2021. Have we started singing? When do we start singing?
On the 13th.
Okay. So that they become 12 days.
Yeah. So just be happy.
So the first day is on the 25th.
The 12th.
We shall get to the
12th.
So we start
day
with
is
on the
25th,
on the
so
12th.
we start on the 13th.
No, the song starts on 12th day or first day. On the first day of Christmas.
The song starts on the first day.
Okay.
As most things often do.
Okay. So we shall end on the 12th day, which will be on the 25th.
Yes.
Not 24th.
No, Christmas Day.
Okay. Okay then.
Cinder, don't worry. It's just 7 days away. We can start.
Okay. City,
Yes,
how are you?
fine, thank you.
Had a good weekend?
Very.
Very good.
Very.
Good to see you.
Good to see you too, sir. Ndu,
Yeah.
are you well?
I am. Thank you.
Hey,
Good
man,
morning.
you're sounding chirpy. Hey.
It's a kind of weekend. It's a kind of
There's
weekend.
a bird in her system.
That's that thing.
And it's chirping away.
It's a kind of weekend.
You know, this December is a short month. Huh?
Where? It's already 31st, in case you were wondering.
Now that knowledge has arrived at my desk, and we're dealing with it.
Okay. We are dealing with it. You know what? There's a lot of strife at the moment. Folks just don't know what they're going to do, especially when it comes to going back to schools. People are saying, okay, so now what happens? Is my child actually going to be allowed to go back to school?
Right.
Will I be able to afford it? With all this nonsense. Okay, I'm talking specifically about those with all the fire drama.
Oh.
Yeah.
Fire, so there's fire plus furious plus everything plus.
Plus, I don't know if my child has been expelled or not, you know.
Yeah. So they haven't received communication whether the child has been expelled or not.
They're saying that some schools have taken advantage of saying, okay, we'll let you know when you can come back. But then now you don't get the communication. So it was an avenue to say, okay, you caused trouble. Thank you very much, but you shall not be returning to this institution.
Right.
So how are you going to start looking for a school in the middle of the year? Remember, this is the second term. We're going into third term in January. What are you going to do?
Let the child know what they did.
Okay, so bless you.
Welcome to Kenya's biggest conversation. Today we'll be speaking to somebody who wants to be president of the Republic of Kenya. Not Dr. Alfred Mutua.
Okay.
We'll be seeking him later. Another somebody.
Yeah.
Her name was Dorothy Kemunto. Yeah. If you haven't heard about her, you'll be hearing about her, and you'll be hearing her today from 8 a.m. But let's begin with COVID.
Yes.
Yeah.
Let's have a look.
Yeah.
There's a lot of drama going on right now.
Of course there's drama.
Lockdowns, apart from lockdowns, then there are travel advisories for certain countries going into others, especially the United Kingdom and the like. So there's a banning of those coming in from South Africa and other countries into countries like the UK and Great Britain, such. And it's causing a lot of ruckus that, you know what, we thought that you had this thing under wraps, and if you see that there's a new variant, throwing the travel industry into a tailspin is not a good show. And so the industry players are complaining. And they're saying, you know what, we're looking at a time where we would have been able to make huge gains in terms of business. But what are you doing? You're locking it down. We're still seeing rioting and demonstrations in some countries saying we cannot go into another Christmas, another holiday season locked in our homes. It's a time when we capitalize on travel, visiting family members, doing 1, 2, 3. And they're saying these lockdowns and these travel restrictions are not only unfair, but at the same time, what you're doing is crippling an industry that had just started to get back on its feet. So that conversation is taking place globally. And they're saying, you know what, this is not the way to go about this. The travel restrictions, the lockdowns is not the way to control it. They have to be creative is what the call is. The British government taking a lot of flack from its residents, from its own citizens, saying, you guys, in terms of this move, bad move.
Munakuja vibaya. Hivi mnavyofanya.
Very poor showing.
Yeah.
Right?
So they've put Nigeria on the red list.
Indeed, for the UK. And you remember that half UK residents and citizens are Nigerians.
If you are arriving from Nigeria, if you've visited Nigeria in the last 10 days and you arrive after 4 a.m. Monday, 6th today, you must book a quarantine hotel at an approved facility.
You know, the safety measures are not difficult to understand because we've had them before. What I have found a little disturbing, perhaps it's my own ignorance and my inability to understand complex issues even when they're simple, is how it is the identification of a virus in the country, in one country, suddenly blacklists an entire country when all they did was say, we have, through our diligence. But what seems to be the communication is that you are the originators of this particular virus.
Yes. It came from you.
We saw that story when China came up and said, we have recognized there's this thing called COVID.
Yes.
Did we not even have a fully fledged, in this country, we call it a task force.
Yes.
Going into China, WHO and the work to try and determine whether that's where it originated. That story is exactly where it was before those guys went.
Yep.
Okay? So what on earth makes us think that it must originate in these countries when we know that the relationship that this particular virus has with the influenza virus is really fairly interesting? It has a relationship, the similarities, okay? There are differences, yes. But the countries that tend to deal with influenza the most, which are they? It's not this continent.
It's not. It's Western Europe and the United States.
Precisely.
This is what we're looking at. That western part of the world, especially between the months of October and April, just before the spring comes.
Yes.
They 88% of Americans, for example, are on the flu shot every year. Why are they? Because they realize the threat that it's posing. We're not talking about something new here.
You know, the early days of COVID, one of the things that some researchers found and documented, and that story came, 1, 2, disappeared, okay? They were looking at some of the strains and the details of these viruses. And the similarity with some of the so-called influenza viruses that they found in the US was amazing. So why is it that every time you have it must come from somewhere other than where it could possibly originate if you look at all the details that make it possible?
Oh, yes.
The question also coming in is that when the Delta variant, for example, was found in the UK, why then were there not travel restrictions on citizens of the UK traveling to other countries? Why?
Like America didn't impose anything
Nothing.
on the UK.
Why?
Even the COVID itself, there has been the same way you're saying. Some reports came and then some reports were muted.
Yes.
That COVID could actually have been in Europe even
Before the
Found in China.
Yes. Yes. They were, remember those reports?
Yeah. In the Netherlands, in Paris,
Italy.
And even in Italy.
in Italy.
Yes.
It could have been there before. But no.
No,
It's a China
China.
virus. 8:17 minutes after 6. We are live streaming the show on SpiceFM KE, YouTube, Facebook, and Twitter. Let's take a look at the weather and then look at the newspaper headlines. Good morning.
This is the Situation Room, the only way to start your day. Spice up your life.
If I'm found guilty, there is no problem. I'm willing to serve. I have no problem. Jails are meant for human beings.
They say a society gets the leadership it deserves. If you have a corrupt, crooked and rotten society like we have in Kenya, then of course they will get that kind of a leadership.
I think the president should dissolve parliament. That's the best solution at this moment in time. Dissolve parliament.
All of you go home.
Yes, we all go home.
How are we encouraging other people who might have new and creative ideas? Young people who are making money without any government help. They are just buying their own bundles. They are going on TikTok and making money. KRA is coming after them.
I've been in parliament for 15 years. We have been unable to pass the gender law. And yet no presidential candidate is talking about it now. Because we are fake. The truth is, all the men refuse to vote for that law.
What did Sonko do to Pumwani Maternity Hospital?
Yeah, he
with
cleaned
his
it up.
own money.
Cleaned it with his own money. That was him as an individual.
Yeah. And I did not say he was cleaning his own money. I was saying he cleaned it.
Foot, mouth. Foot, mouth. Eric.
Okay.
The Situation Room, Kenya's biggest conversation.
Mostly cloudy conditions in Nairobi at 15, highs of 24 and lows of 15 today. We're looking at clear conditions in Nakuru City, highs of 26 and lows of 14. 22 will be the high in Nyeri, where it's cloudy at 11. We'll see that as a low today. And in Eldoret, clear conditions at 13, highs of 24 and lows of 12. Mostly sunny conditions is what we'll see in Mombasa this morning at 24, highs of 32, and Malindi mostly sunny as well at 27 with highs of 32 today. It's clear in Kisumu at 19, highs of 30, coming back down to lows of 19 today, while in Kakamega it's 19 and clear, highs of 30 and lows of 15. Kampala raining this Monday morning at 20, highs of 28 and lows of 17, and we're looking at light rain in Dar es Salaam at 24. It'll go to highs of 30. Lagos this morning is mostly cloudy at 27, highs of 33 and lows of 26. And Johannesburg is cloudy at 15, highs of 23 and lows of 14. Clear conditions in Kinshasa for now at 24, highs of 30 and lows of 23. In Beijing, it's 11 degrees and sunny going into early afternoon Monday. We'll see lows of -4 today. Paris is mostly cloudy at 5, highs of 8 and lows of 3. And we're looking at mostly clear conditions in London at 4, highs of 8. And it's Sunday night in New York. It's 8 degrees. We'll see highs of 9 coming into winter and lows of 7.
Spice FM. Spice up your life. Mature, intelligent talk every morning. Spice up yourself. Mornings done right. 94.4 Spice
It's
FM.
20 minutes
Nairobi.
after 6, and we are live streaming the show SpiceFM KE, YouTube, Facebook, and Twitter. People are online, are they?
Indeed. James Muli Kimanzi says, good morning, tuning from Nyali in Mombasa. Leo Zerubbabel. Hey, Leo. Zerubbabel even. Wow. All right. Says, good morning, tuned in from Nakuru and Makara Western. Good morning. That's where Pascal Quena is tuned in. And at Masinde Muliro University, Deputy Mokaya, that's where he is. Nanyuki's online, says Kev Santana. Have a fantastic week ahead. You too, brother. Good morning, Situation Room. Mr. Eric Ndu and Dr. Muga, tuned in from Kisumu, Migosi. Happy for a new week. I hope you are too. Absolutely. Let's keep the conversation going. Thanks, Daggy. Mukwana Kagota also says he can't afford to miss this informative discussion from an able team. Asante Sana. Good morning, Team TSR. We trounced them again in the Valencia Marathon. Sisi Niwale Wase, right? And listening in from Qatar, that's where Cobbs Ronnie is this morning. All right, quite a lot of you online this morning. Elliot Richard Asuman, good morning. And Jose says, good morning from Nakuru. Governor Chumba says, again, following from Qatar. And Rulani Chauke says, good morning to you guys. And Abby says, good morning as well. Seeing the rest of you on, good morning and thanks for joining us.
Welcome everybody to the show. City.
Yes.
Today's proverb.
This particular proverb, I wanted to mention it last week. But then the events...
The weather changed.
First of all, the weather. Okay, which has persisted.
Stopped you from, okay, I got
so
it.
I figured... let me introduce a little irony.
Right.
Okay.
Right.
Weather notwithstanding.
Right.
Siku njema huonekana asubuhi. Yes.
In English?
A good day is seen very early in the morning. Well, very early in the morning is alfajiri, really. But asubuhi is morning.
Okay.
Now, this particular proverb, as I was thinking of the day, you know how you wake up in the morning, it's drizzling, it's chilly, and then if you have a body that's a barometer that tells you all these things, and the joints join in to form a choir to inform you of the nooks and crannies that your body is having to deal with, then you become very alert to it. So siku njema kweli, once asubuhi.
You'll know how the day is going to be.
You know, and
Very
here
early.
day literally doesn't just mean like Monday. It means period, it means era, it means decade.
A good season starts from the beginning.
Eric, now you are an intelligent man whom God bequeathed with sufficient and adequate insight. Season.
Wow. It's a good day to have a good day. Wow, okay.
So, Basi. Let's take a look at the newspaper headlines. Standard e-paper. You can get access to it. Okay, 20 shillings daily. Standardmedia.co.ke. You get free access to the Standard archives for 10 days. Then you have daily Sudoku, daily crossword puzzle, plus all the premium content that's available from the Standard newspapers at 20 bob daily. What's in the headline?
The horrific story of folks who unfortunately met their death while after getting onto a bus, then trying to cross flooded river in Mwingi. We saw the pictures over the weekend. It was not fun to see at all. Desperate travelers stranded on the banks of the swollen river in Zai had just boarded the bus ferrying members of a church choir to a wedding ceremony for the short distance across, only to meet their death minutes later. The death toll now stands at 25, but more bodies could still be trapped in the wreckage. So the picture here of Kenya Navy divers and local residents during the recovery operation yesterday at Mount Enzio in Mwingi, Kitui County. The stranded passengers had camped at the riverbank for hours waiting for the raging waters to subside. So they were there previously and they saw that we couldn't pass. So they had stood and said, all right, let's give it a minute and see if it'll go down.
Minute turned to many minutes, turned to hours. They're like, we're going for a wedding. Surely.
Let's go. Right? Everybody gets in the bus. Driver says, all right, let's do the thing. Having turned down offers by local divers to carry them across the river, a service for which the youthful men would charge 200 per person, they instead opted for the cheaper option of paying 50 shillings to board the school bus that was headed for a wedding in No Township. According to Bishop Joseph Mwongela, the head of the Catholic Church in the region, 11 of the bodies recovered from the accident scene on Saturday were not members of the Muthui Mwesco Mwengi Catholic Church choir. This means that they were among passengers picked up along the way at the riverbank. They include 2 women and their children who had travelled from Garissa town that fateful morning. Elizabeth Kaluki and Alice Ndanu Macau had arrived at the drift at about 8 a.m. and joined other travellers in waiting for the river's water to subside. Their cousin Ruth Kambua told yesterday. Miss Kaluki was with her 2-week-old daughter, Muthui Musvisi, while Miss Ndanu was carrying her 18-month-old daughter, Chantal Mwende. So we saw the pictures. I mean, again, it was not fun as the bus then now went and within minutes tipped over and then within minutes was submerged. And it was just horrific to see how this happened.
Really, really, really. And now when you hear the stories, the accounts from those who survived, saying, they had waited. They were all going for the same event, same function, a wedding. And then they had all waited for a while, waiting for the waters to subside. And they decided, you know what? We have seen smaller vehicles crossing. How about we get many of us onto the bus so that we are heavier?
Hold it down.
And hold it down so we can cross. And they all boarded the bus.
The thing is that where it sank, it was not the path that it took.
Yeah, it was pushed by the water.
It was pushed by the water and it tipped over. And within minutes, this thing was submerged. And I mean, here it is. And it's very interesting that even as this was happening, I just remember those messages that we get gazetted by the Kenya Met saying, you know what?
Expect heavy rainfall and flooding
one,
in these areas.
And flooding. Number two, don't see a body of water and expect that it's shallow and that you'll get through it.
Yep.
The characteristics of water bodies, especially when it has been raining, often change. And you don't know where you will find a hole in the water. You do not know.
Yeah.
And this is a typical example of that.
But you know what is
the assumption was
what is
death.
of interest? There is the assumption that you understand the strength of that particular flow. There's that assumption. Then you also assume you understand the depth of the river when it has already flooded. Okay. In places where there are flash floods, it's even worse.
Yeah.
I have had occasion to witness something similar.
Yeah.
If you ever go to the sub-county of Suba and you're going towards a place, you are following the back route, a place called Sindo, going to Nyatike. There are hills. And just below the hills, there are villages, several villages, all along. Then there's a road that cuts between them. The week prior to the flash floods, I'd used that same road. The following week, I was using that same road, and I was being told there was a flash flood. And I'd heard people had died. When I got there, I understood. Those villages didn't exist.
Gone.
They did not exist. They had been swept completely. Gone.
Wow.
And that road, there was a gully. And now, there's like a small rivulet crossing the road. Meaning, if you didn't have a vehicle that was made for that sort of road, you are not going to be able to cross.
Yeah.
Then, that same, 2 weeks after that, a certain river now in Migori, similar thing flooded. Matatu. I know this because one of my colleagues passed away. Now, the tragedy is that we had a group insurance cover for such things which catered for this. Okay? We had an idiotic HR manager, and I mean idiotic, who had not submitted these forms in time. They're supposed to...
What?
They hadn't submitted them.
So the insurance was not active?
It was not active.
Okay.
Young mother, second child, I think 1.5 years old.
Wow.
First child, 3 years old, dead. Cover, gone. Now, and the worst thing was that we worked with the husband. You know, some of these things, with hindsight, you're always wise.
Yeah.
But you attend, there are funerals and there are funerals. Yeah. This one was one of the saddest.
It touches you, man. Because you know the backstory. You also know what is happening behind the scenes.
Yes.
You know where these people have come from.
You
know them.
And there's no reprieve. And yet, we had catered for that reprieve.
Yeah. It was possible for them to have been sorted out.
Easily. Someone just didn't
do their job.
Just didn't.
Did you get to understand why? What had caused the delay?
It wasn't the only delay that person had caused. That person was notorious for not writing things,
so
not sending things. Him.
It's just notoriety. Basically, they just looked at it and...
It was not... There was no emergency. 3 months, 6 months down the line.
What's the problem?
Do it.
I will do it.
What's the thing? So... Attitude.
Yeah. The other thing that also made me start thinking is this is a big river Enzio.
It is a big river.
Okay. Clearly, it's a seasonal river as well.
Yes.
And it's expected it floods because you can see just the breadth of this river, the width. I asked myself, what made the waters top the bridge?
That I can explain to you. Having had to deal with these things over time, you know what happens? Nyando River used to flood. What happens over time is that as water comes, it also comes with soil, topsoil. And all these things, all they do is they settle at the bottom of the river. So the depth of the river reduces with the time, simply because of this. So if you have just what you would think is the normal rain, the water won't have a passage for passing through, so it will flood even easier. That's what happens. Now, I recall, you've heard me say this story many times, I'm going to repeat it again.
So you're saying it's siltation of the river?
Yes. Because what happens is, water has a passage. There's a place it passes through.
Okay.
If you dredge that river and water comes, the water will have sufficient room to travel in. If you don't, this is river, every time it rains, siltation just keeps piling.
Well, we see siltation in what's the place? In Busia County.
Budalangi,
right?
Yes.
In Budalangi, when we spoke with a local MP, he was telling us it's about siltation.
Yes.
Okay, but the river comes and then it's the siltation that leads to the flooding.
Yes.
This particular one, you can see the river is very wide.
It is wide. It's been expanding.
It's been expanding over time.
But that also tells
Is the bridge high enough? Is a question I'm asking myself.
When the river expands, what it means is it's been eating the sides. You know how it expands?
Yes.
Right? Now, where does that soil go to? So it just drops down.
But it's also pushed away by the waters as well.
Yes. But you see, it's along the whole
area
of that river. So it keeps being pushed down and more keeps coming. It's a situation where, if you understand it, I didn't understand it until there was an MP who actually called Eric Nyamunga. Martha Karua was then Minister for Water. He managed to get government machinery to come and dredge all the water. Dredge, that's all. And suddenly, it rained, there was no flooding. It rained, as it rained, but there was no flooding.
There was no flooding.
Yes. All the water pans, all these places where water would rest, they were dredged and they had capacity. That's really it. Now, you tell me, how many people who work in counties and deal with these things understand that this is what needs to happen? Many. But how many bother to say, look, guys,
let's do something about
it. These rains we're having are a bit crazy.
The height of this bridge is supposed to be X. It is now X minus X Y meters.
It's been changing. This river has been widening, it's been changing. And if we're looking at the sort of rainfalls, we may have a problem here. We need to change this and this and this. The bridge could be 50 years old and people think it is still okay to serve you now.
I'm actually not even looking at the county. I'm looking at the authority that's in charge of this particular road.
Because that's their job.
That's their job. It's 26 to 7. Let's take a break, take a look at the traffic.
Hello.
Halo, umesikia?
Nimesikia nini?
Hujasikia habari? Hebu acha nikuambie. Kile kimetokea.
Hello? Hello? Hello?
Don't wait for hearsay. Dial star 550 star 1 hash to read the Standard e-paper from the convenience of your mobile phone for only 20 shillings from your telecom line, and stay up to date for a reliable source with over 100 years of experience with no additional data charges.
What makes a man?
I had an advertising job that was toxic. It was difficult. I'm not saying the people were toxic. I don't think anyone is inherently toxic.
Don't ever let someone's perception of you become your reality.
How do we navigate through career, family, and life?
I was an average kid. I wasn't a poor student.
Examining what defines a man.
We derive our identity as men based on external factors, on things that people can be able to see.
A space for men to open their experiences and more. Starting Thursday, 18th November on the Standard Digital YouTube and Facebook page. Hosted by Eric Latiff.
Spice FM.
It's getting hot in here. Oh, everybody steals. It's better a thief who brings something small back. And I say to myself, there's no better thief. A thief is a thief, period.
All those bribes, how much they are getting per year, how much inconvenience they are causing, as much as you call it a small case, it's worth it to be convicted.
The truth is, we are a tribal nation. Because if we were not tribal, and I want to go back to this, you cannot continue walking around with a mug which is clean outside and it's rotten inside.
We have become a fuliza country. We have mortgaged our country because of debt.
You've got one chef working and the assistant chef wakati anatakana koroge unga nini hayuko.
This is the...
Hey, it's getting hot in here. The media has greatly contributed to the moral rot that we experience in this country.
I remember a senior politician telling me, point blank, nobody steals in the field, it's stolen in the granary. So my friend, if you're going to win an election, jipange kwa granary.
I think we are suffering from Stockholm syndrome. Our violator and abuser is also our redeemer in our mind.
The whole political class, the whole political institution.
All right, it's building up on Mombasa Road today, and we're seeing in and outbound traffic, especially around Imara, Daima today. Jogo Road also spilling over onto Landis, going out towards Kamkunji. Very, very slow. A lot can change in just 30 minutes on a Monday morning. Uhuru Highway then outbound, and we're looking at especially from the Bunyala Road roundabout through to Haile Selassie Avenue and well past into the city and then out towards Westlands. It's an absolute mess this morning and has already really started quite early. Coming off of Ngong Road this morning as well is really slow. The Thika Superhighway even slower. And what was just a little bit of bumper-to-bumper traffic is now out full-blown, not moving traffic all the way. Wilson Airport is where you see a bit of a hiccup on Langata Road today and also coming out of Westlands as well. All right, guys, the bypasses, Southern, Eastern, Red Link and Northern will help you out this morning. Use them. We'll give you an update in a short while, what it looks like. Help us out here as well, guys. What do you know? SpiceFMKE on Twitter. Text 40127.
Spice up your life. Spice FM, Malindi. Mature, intelligent talk every morning. Spice up yourself.
It is 20 minutes to 7. Kenya's biggest conversation continues. Story on page 3 of the Standard this morning. Man walks out of jail after 23 years to the embrace of 2 wives. This is a story of Robinson Siko Ogembo, who is 48 years old and who's been in jail for the last 23 years. He was sentenced to death in 1998 for 2 counts of robbery with violence and was among 4,000 death row inmates whose sentences were commuted to life imprisonment by President Mwai Kibaki in 2009. And then in 2019, he successfully appealed his sentence and the High Court reduced it to a 3-year jail term. See what happened? 98 death. 2009, Kibaki comes, commutes all death sentences to life in prison. He appeals. 2019 court reduces that sentence to 3 years. Now he has served it. He walked out of prison yesterday. He met 2 wives. He's 48. He's been in prison for 23 years, meaning that he went to prison at the age of
23. 25, yeah.
25. He has come out and to the warm embrace of his 2 wives. Does it mean he actually was married to 2 wives at 25?
Or maybe earlier.
At 25, he had 2 wives already.
Yes.
You find it surprising?
Where?
You find it surprising? Huh?
Where? So he says when he was arrested, he had just got married and life was beginning to get exciting when he found friends who introduced him to crime. He says as a newly married man, he was under pressure to provide and prove to his family that he was now a man, which drove him to join bad company. At first, they were breaking into people's shops, but they also mugged and robbed victims of their belongings, which they later sold to unsuspecting buyers. Between 1996 and 1997, according to him, their appetite for money had grown and they operated in Sotik, Litein, Kericho and Kisii towns, where they orchestrated a series of robberies, sometimes armed with crude weapons. As they continued to engage in crime, there was widespread outcry from victims and residents in general, and Ogembo's group was marked by the police as most wanted. 2 of his gang members were shot dead after police foiled a robbery in Kisii town. Funny enough, he says, after my colleagues were shot dead, I did not learn any lesson. We carried on with the remaining 3 friends, undeterred. We even became bolder, and it's only after my arrest and sentencing that I realized, what I was doing was wrong. He was arrested in 1998, but 2 of his partners escaped. He was identified by several of his victims in Sotik, Kisii, Litein and Kericho police stations. So when he went before court, the judicial officer just found him guilty and convicted him and sentenced him to death, which was the then maximum sentence for this capital offense. Now he's come out and he's saying, I learnt my lesson. I learnt my lesson.
Maybe he did.
We hope he did. He's 48 now. The question now, though, is how do you reintegrate somebody like this who has spent almost half his entire life in prison?
Who went away when he was, considerably young, right?
He went away at 25, like we're saying. He's
Just
coming
started.
out
Right.
23 years later. Half of his life has been spent behind bars.
Essentially, if they were toddlers, he left. They're adults.
Yep.
Yes.
How do you reintegrate this person into community? How do you keep them busy? How do you make them gainfully employed?
Does our prison system cater for such things?
But then you have to look and ask, is the prison system rehabilitative? Is it a rehabilitative system right now, or is it purely punitive and that is it?
What would
Or is that the
rehabilitative
aim?
mean?
Actually, the only example you find of a rehabilitative system is in the Scandinavian countries.
Netherlands specifically.
So to
yeah,
speak.
yeah.
Where you start with the Netherlands, go up to Norway. Their prison system actually is rehabilitative in this sense. Aside from being incarcerated, meaning you don't have the freedom to walk out every day, you can go to class. You have access to visits from your family. And depending on the nature of your crime, it's not a cell as such. Some of them, it's even a unit like a bed sitter, where you can even cook, you can even determine certain things.
You can
and
earn.
then, yes, and then learn, then you can earn, you can work, you can be part of some industry or the other.
All right.
Okay? So,
One would argue the Kenyan system is almost similar to all those things that you've said.
no, it is not.
Number one, you have access to your family, visitations. Number 2, you have access to gaining a skill. That's why they even have KCPE, KCSE being offered in prison. Number 3, we see the workshops and all. They actually learn a skill from there while in prison. And it's said that when you are working in these areas, there's a certain amount of money that is
set aside for you.
Yes. That you're paid.
Yes.
Some minimal amount of money, but you're earning as you're in prison because you're working. You're producing all the number plates for the Republic. You're producing furniture that is sold by the prison service and all. So,
but do
all
we
those
have
things.
a system where, on a regular basis, you and your fellow inmates go through therapy, where you revisit what it is that took you there, you understand it, and you are constantly being shown or presented with a clear opportunity to understand the errors of your ways, and also being pointed towards ensuring that you do not go back to those ways?
Unfortunately not.
Everything that I said no because, yes, everything that you mentioned, we do have. We actually do have. However, that last bit.
Vital.
Because in the absence
it's vital towards rehabilitation,
yes,
right?
in the absence of that, you are among criminals, some of them more than others.
Yep.
Okay?
Yep.
So the likelihood of learning things that you didn't know about the criminal world is even greater than you moving away from what it is that took you there.
When Ogembo says that he had joined bad company, well, out here, now imagine the people that he's been dealing with for that 23 years.
Headquarters.
When it comes to reintegration, though, I'm also thinking rehabilitation and reintegration. Community is also important.
Absolutely.
The community ought to be talked to before the man comes and told, all right, so you remember so-and-so?
He's
coming back. And this is how you treat him. So he says he is reformed, and we have actually gone through him and we believe that he's reformed. Now, this is how you help him through the journey. Because imagine the man comes out and all those things that led him into crime in the first place, the pressure of life, taking care of his family, he comes back right there.
Those things didn't move anywhere.
They didn't move.
It's like they're sitting there waiting for him.
And he's not going to come back and people are going to give him a job tomorrow. Ogembo umekuja. Sasa kuna kazi. No.
You know where the fundamental difference comes in, Eric? If he was committing crimes outside his area of jurisdiction or his home, people won't even be worried. They'll even wonder, why was this person jailed?
Yeah.
If he perpetrated crimes within the locality where he was born and where he lives, then that becomes absolutely necessary.
The memory is fresh.
Yes. He'll be an outcast.
So how do you reintegrate such people
I think
back into the community?
It's worth, I think, for the just stories that we have of people who've been through the system, man and woman alike, anybody who then has been able to come back into community or society and then being a properly functioning member has done the rehabilitation on their own accord, has gone and said, look, in order for me to survive this, I have to do it for myself.
Yeah.
On the other hand, there was a famous story of a woman who had been incarcerated, came out, and all she knew was the life of crime. She went back, didn't she? Almost immediately to this robbery with violence, and then was incarcerated yet again. We've heard stories globally of people who've come out of years of incarceration and say, you know what, guys, just put me back, because I can't survive out here. Just put me back.
Life is too rough.
I'm more familiar with that situation there. Yes.
Put me back. So I think it's worth looking at if we do want people to be functioning members of society.
You know why I mentioned that system that you find in some Scandinavian countries? Precisely because of that. You're not in a box, you're not in a room, you're not in a cell, you're not behind bars, you're in a house.
Yeah, you can go outside.
So, you can. So essentially, what you would consider normal is what you're incarcerated within a system that actually is normal. But then the other details of your life that are not normal, in that, for instance, you're not as free as you'd like to be.
Sure.
Everything is routine and you have to keep that schedule. But it's taken years and years of fiddling with systems that work for them to have arrived at this. And also some of these countries have a huge sovereign fund.
Yeah.
Meaning they don't go around building SGRs at the cost that we build ours. Neither do they build dams that never get built. They actually do what they're supposed to do with the money. And when there's a natural resource in the country, the whole country benefits.
11 minutes to 7. Time for a quick break. We'll be back shortly.
"24/7 around the world, non-stop. This is Spice FM.
Hello, you've reached the Wish hotline. Your wish is our command.
Hello, neza make a wish?
Unaweza. What do you want to wish for?
I wish ningeondoa stress ya storage, packaging na shipping to my customers so I can focus more on growing my online business bila hizo hassles.
Try Sandy.
Sandy?
Yes, Sandy. You can download the fulfillment app and begin fulfilling with Sandy today.
Always wishing for a solution to manage your operations? Sandy Fulfillment is here to bring your wishes to life. We pick, store, pack, and ship your orders to your customers bila stress. Download the Sandy Fulfillment app today. Do more with Sandy.
This is something people need to understand. Your money, my money, equals our money. We cannot have your money.
All right, so it's 9 minutes to 7. Kenya's biggest conversation, it continues. We'll be telling you more about Showmax. What we want you to do right now is go on to showmax.com, www.showmax.com. If you want to have access to back-to-back seasons, a bouquet of hundreds of movies, documentaries, children's programming, exclusive show premieres before the rest of Africa, and original content featuring your favorite stars. You could go on and on because it's amazing and it's all true, all on Showmax. If you go on to showmax.com, this morning we'll be telling you more about how you can get yourself subscribed to Showmax. Keep it right here for that.
Classic soul, R&B, smooth jazz, neo soul, and nostalgic ballads.
Make some noise. Yeah!
You're listening to Spice FM. 102.5 Spice FM, Kisumu. Mature, intelligent talk every morning. Spice up yourself. Mornings.
All right, it continues. White Raila says, good morning.
Spice.
I'm tuned in from somewhere in the People's Settlement of Korogosho. Siti, what are you looking at in the papers?
You know, I am looking at actually several things, but the thing that has struck me is something very interesting, and it's in The Nation on page 5. And the article talks about MPs who are supposed to refund 2.5 billion illegal allowances. This is what the ruling is, in summary. The lawmakers are against the High Court's finding that the Public Service Commission encroached into the mandate of the SRC. Okay? For 26 months, each MP had received 6.5 million shillings. Let me just read a paragraph of the story so that you can understand what it is that I'm trying to talk about. Members of Parliament have failed in their bid to stop recovery of at least 2.7 billion they earned in illegal allowances. The lawmakers, jointly with the Parliamentary Service Commission, had moved to the Court of Appeal seeking suspension of a High Court order that directed that clerks of the National Assembly and the Senate to deduct the payments in full from the MP salaries. That is from 2019 to December 10, 2020, when the High Court issued the order. Each of the 418 legislators used to earn a monthly allowance of 250,000 for accommodation and house allowances without approval of the Salaries and Remuneration Commission. So,
they have to give it back.
It has caught up with them.
Yeah.
Yes. Court said illegal refund.
Start paying it back.
Went to Court of Appeal.
Court of Appeal said we are in agreement with the High Court.
Remember those guys told you?
Kindly do as they have said. You know what? The question then is, I'm asking in terms of time, because they're going to be out
in a couple of months.
Who
are you going to surcharge?
Right. Who is going to receive this bill?
They have other dues just beyond their salaries. Remember, they made it into, they ensured that it was enshrined in our laws that each of them is entitled to a pension. Remember?
We shall pay them like a pension.
Yes. It's not as though they don't have dues that can be reached into. No.
They can get it from somewhere.
If they want to get it.
Essentially.
Oh, they'll get it.
Well, this is interesting because, this came up a few months ago. Actually, almost a year ago now. And we're like, oh, no, maybe they won't have to pay. We're going to take it to court. Gone to the higher court. Higher court says, sorry, folks, illegally given, you must pay it back. We're in December. About 8 or so months to go for the life of this current parliament. Will they be able to do it? Because what are we talking, 2.7 billion shillings?
Each of them is to pay 6.5 million. That's what you're supposed to pay, each one.
All right. Are they going to be able to make it?
That really is their problem, isn't it?
Or they're going to be given a time, like installment. All right, even if you're out of office, we'll allow you pay over the next X number of years or something.
What you are allowed to do in case of, when you want to deduct, you're not allowed to deduct more than 2/3. But that'll be also tricky because many of our esteemed lawmakers, you will find that pay that you know of, my friend, is encumbered to the hilt.
Indeed.
You're paying this loan and you're paying that loan, and you've timed it to coincide with the end of your term.
End of your term, make sure that by the time this is over, I'm sorted.
Even if you give them an installment option, what if the fellow is not in employ anymore.
It will be tricky.
It will be quite
tricky. But, you see, now this is where you look at the rule of law, and a small thing here. It's called procedure.
Procedure was not followed.
Yes. SRC were not involved, and they, the lawmakers making the law, know that in such a move
of the SRC,
they know.
But they said, "Huyu Serem ana
Sumbua sana."
Now Serem left.
Serem is not there. Did we take Serem to China?
Yes.
So it's no longer on her head.
No.
It is Mengich now.
And Serem
still
was merely following
the law.
Precisely.
The procedure.
Yes. Now, when you have a parliament that is lawmaking, and they themselves are at the forefront of not following procedures which they are party to making, do you see the level of lawlessness that we're dealing with?
Lawlessness. 2 schools closed as police arrest a teacher of arson attack. The schools are in Siaya County and they've been closed indefinitely, and a teacher arrested in Migori County over student unrest. Students of Miranda High School and Rangala Boys High School were sent home yesterday, and Taranganya Boys teacher arrested over an arson attack at the institution. At Rangala, the management sent home 1,000 students to avert destruction of property after they demanded to be released home for the December holidays. School Board of Management Chairman Stephen Onyango says the students became unruly and insisted they want to go home. According to Onyango, the students said they were not used to being in school in December because it's a month that they tour countries like Dubai and South Africa. The principals tried to calm them down. I'm not making this story up, but that's the story.
Okay.
According to the chairman of the board. The students were saying, this is the time when we go to Dubai, to South Africa. Why are we in school?
Want to travel.
The principal tried to calm them down, but they would hear none of it. We consulted and agreed that the principal releases them to go home. According to Onyango, even after the communication, some students still broke windows. Some destroyed CCTV cameras and lighting points. There was an attempt to access the food store. This did not succeed. The principal is currently meeting the relevant officers over the matter. At Miranda in Bondo, the management closed the learning institution indefinitely following a Sunday morning fire that burnt the school's second floor of Boaz Owino complex. By 2 p.m., hundreds of students could be seen in Bondo town boarding public transport vehicles at to their various destinations. The incident comes barely a week after Form 4 students were sent home indefinitely after they allegedly threatened to burn down the institution. In Migori, a teacher and student were arrested over an arson attack. Police believe the two started a fire that razed the dormitory at Taranganya Boys High School in Kuria West Sub-County on Saturday night. Teacher, student worked together. Fire. It's not ending.
Can I tell you something really quickly? We do not have time. You want to come back and say it after 7?
Yes, let's come back after 7, right? Because we're coming to the top of the hour. Keep it right here for more conversations. This is Kenya's biggest conversation, the Situation Room. We'll be having a conversation today with a lady who wants to be a presidential candidate. Her name is Dorothy Kemunto. She's coming up in the next hour as we continue looking at more headlines in the papers and more stories throughout the show. We are glad that you're tuned in. For example, Dejanse Van, read that name?
Hans van Goyman.
Okay. Hans van Goyman is in South Africa.
Indeed.
Okay. And Victor Keari is in Msambweni. And Nams is in Kismayo. All of you from wherever you're tuned in, we are glad that you're tuned in this morning. Keep it right here for more. It's now 7 a.m.
Spice up your life. The latest news from around the world. 94.4 Spice FM.
This is Newswire. Dennis Aseto. The death toll from the Enzio River bus tragedy rolled to 32 after 9 more bodies were retrieved Sunday. Divers from the military, police, Kenya Red Cross and the county government of Kitui also managed to retrieve the bus wreckage to the shores of River Enzio. The bus was taking a church choir and other revelers to a wedding in Kitui County Saturday when it was swept by the fast-flowing waters as the driver tried to navigate a submerged bridge. 12 passengers managed to scramble to safety, but most aboard the stricken bus were unable to escape before it was swallowed by the muddy tide. Governor Charity Ngilu, who was coordinating the rescue operation, said that the rescue operations will continue today to make sure that no bodies are left trapped at the banks of the river. Our thoughts and condolences to the families. Now, Miranda High School has been closed indefinitely after dormitories went up in flames after days of a bitter standoff that led to the suspension of 400 Form 4 students. The students were sent home after the management accused them of planning to ban the school over various grievances. But despite the suspension, the school's 630-capacity dormitory was set ablaze Sunday in a daring incident that occurred at 10 a.m. Firefighters from Siaya County were immediately called in to try put out the blaze. The dormitory that went up in flames houses Form 1 students. Bondo Deputy County Commissioner Richard Karani said an investigation had been launched, with reports indicating that 3 students have already been arrested. The Council of the Law Society of Kenya has called on authorities to launch an investigation into the murder of lawyer Boaz Nyakeri, who was killed on Saturday. Reports indicate that Nyakeri was stabbed by unknown persons near Masai Lodge in Rongai. In a statement, LSK Chief Executive Officer Mercy Wambua said the responsibility placed on advocates as court officials and human rights defenders place them at a relatively higher risk of possible attacks by adversaries. She said that the assailants, who seemed to have been trailing him, stabbed him on the neck but did not steal anything from him, leaving a lot of questions as to the motive behind the attack. She now wants the government to put in place strategies to ensure that advocates, magistrates, judges as well as court officials are provided with adequate security and protection from any form of harm, threats, intimidation and attacks that may arise as a result of the nature of their work. Kenya recorded 29 new COVID-19 cases, bringing the country's caseload to 255,437. Health Minister Muthui Kagwe said this was from a sample size of 2,933, recording a positivity rate of 1%. The cumulative test stands at 2,855,076. Now, ODM Chief Raila Odinga toured various estates in Nairobi, where he continued to sell his Azimio la Umoja initiative ahead of the conference, which will take place on December 10th at the Moi International Sports Centre, Kasarani. Addressing his supporters, Odinga warned Kenyans against discriminating and called for a united country free from ethnicity. The ODM boss was flanked by several leaders, including Kieni MP Kanini Kega and nominated MP Maina Kamanda. The former Prime Minister is expected to formally declare his 2022 presidential bid on December 10th. Now, Deputy President William Ruto's UDA party got a shot in the arm after Nyeri Governor Muthui and Tetu MP James Gishui joined his United Democratic Alliance party. The two made the announcement when they accompanied Ruto to pay for church in Tetu during Ruto's second day of tour. The governor said that the DP is the most suitable person to succeed President Kenyatta, adding that he will ask Nyeri residents to ignore any other person telling them the contrary. Gishui was more categorical, saying that he has officially joined UDA after listening to his constituents. This as Maendeleo Chapter Party leader and 2022 presidential aspirant Alfred Mutua launched his presidential manifesto with a solemn pledge to eradicate poverty in the country. In the manifesto, the Machakos governor pledged a country where citizens are more economically empowered and access the highest possible attainable standards of living through transformative social, economic and political policies. Mutua said his manifesto was mainly informed by the wishes of Kenyans who he consulted during the numerous listening tours he conducted last year.
Under my plan, the cost of unga, that is maize flour, will drop from 120 shillings for a 2 kilogram packet of unga to 60 shillings. It is possible. Wale wamewana hivi majuzi will receive an initial capital from my government of 500,000 shillings to 1 million shillings in kind, payable over 20 years at an interest rate of 0.5% as a gift from the government to invest into their new home and entrench the family institution. We are going to encourage the planting of trees to be used as part payment of dowry. So as you go to pay your dowry, unasema ulipanda miti ngapi.
It is indeed a political season. This is Newswire. I'm Dennis Aseto.
SpiceFM, Nakuru.
In and outbound traffic on Mombasa Road this morning, and we're going out into the city with quite some of it. Let's look at what's going on towards North Airport Road, and traffic has already built up there, and then out towards Embakasi and the rail stop at Pipeline. Some traffic there as well. The eastern part of the city seems to have its good dose of clogging today. Uhuru Highway also getting into the city all the way through to Westlands today, quite slow. The Red Hill Link Road coming off Waiaki Way, you want to use that as an option to get out of this mess that has already started in that area. Thika Superhighway has shown us Pepe really coming off Outer Ring and we're going past that junction. So it's very, very slow. Up almost no movement in some parts. Kiambu Road also way past where you normally see it today. So the question is, what is going on here? Let us know, guys. Ring Road Westlands coming out of that whole area also quite clogged. Remember, if you can get out of that, then use the Red Hill Link Road to get out of Westlands. All right, traffic has started proper. It's a Monday morning. Things looking crazy. Let us know what it looks like in your neck of the woods on SpiceFM KE on Twitter. Text 40127.
This is The Situation Room, the home of hard-hitting political commentary and penetrating insights about the state of the nation. This is a talk radio experience like no other. The Situation Room, a place for hard truths, debates, and elevated conversations. The Situation Room, witty, political, engaging, deep, controversial. In the room, we have C.T. Muga, researcher, academic, seasoned political observer, a fountain of wisdom in these politically uncertain times. Ndu Okoh, Nigerian by birth, Kenyan by choice, communications expert, Pan-Africanist, a truth seeker and believer in people power, and Eric Latiff, agent provocateur, the man in the chair, seasoned journalist, news hound, a man who believes in punching up, not down. This is The Situation Room.
It's 7 minutes after 7. A very good morning to you. It's the 6th day of December 2012 and 21.
Wow.
Kenya's biggest conversation. It continues. City, the day's proverb.
Siku njema huonekana asubuhi.
Na nani?
Atakaye kuiona. Usipotaka kuiona hutaiona.
Siku njema huonekana
asubuhi. Hata ikiwa
asubuhi.
siku ingekuwa na macho na inakuangalia na utaki kuiona, hutaiona.
Okay. What do they mean by this, though?
This is what I liked about it. Literally, they say a good day begins. You'll know a good day just
at dawn.
At its genesis, at dawn, at its beginning. If you want to understand it in the simplest of terms, I would go by first impressions.
Mm-hmm.
Most people don't wait to get to understand many things in details. It's the first impressions that they go with, and that's what they stay with. Yes. So, if that first impression, if you consider it mapema mchana asubuhi, okay? Now, the good impression starts when somebody meets you. So, if they find you in a cantankerous mood, that's their asubuhi, and that's what will be in their minds. Why have we developed this attitude towards our politicians that they are this, that, and the other, and none of it is all pleasant? It's because now asubuhi, they have actually pointed us in that direction and told us, by the way, folks, this is how you need to look at us. Yes, we will talk to you and tell you all sorts of things, but please do not expect us to do those things we keep telling you.
Asubuhi, that's it.
Na mapema, alfajiri aswa.
Let's talk to a politician who joins us in the studio now. Dorothy Kemunto is a businesswoman, and she has thrown her hat in the ring, and she says she would like to be elected President of the Republic of Kenya. Dorothy, the fifth, joins us in the Situation Room. Karibu.
Thank you. Thank you for having me this morning.
We call that the hot seat, so make yourself comfortable.
Is it supposed to get hotter than this?
No.
Actually,
okay.
Not supposed to. It will.
It will get hot.
It will.
Okay, let's brace ourselves then.
Who is Dorothy?
Dorothy Kemunto is a Kenyan, first and foremost. Born here, raised here, schooled here. I do my business here. I've been in various leadership positions, I think since birth, again, being the firstborn. That's, I think, the first leadership role. I've been both in private and public institutions, positions of leadership. The ones that always stand out, those are the ones that I can mention. I've been the student leader at the University of Nairobi. representing the women affairs. 2012, 2013, I worked with the first administration, and we did various projects for people in the slums. I've served on the Kenya Private Sector Alliance, the Youth and Gender Board. I've been a volunteer Rotarian for about 13 years now. So that's just in brief who Dorothy is. Yes.
So some of these leadership roles that you said, you've been in the Students' Union, leader of Women Affairs, you've been on the board of KEPSA. Where else?
Where else in terms of?
Especially in public service.
Public
because
service.
You said in public and private.
I've been always behind the scenes with the administration, the previous administration, before I exited to get into the private sector.
Which one was the previous administration?
the first term, the current president's first term, I was with the Nairobi County, and I was part of the logistics team that put the lady who was the representative for Nairobi. I was part of the campaign team, of course, and we worked on a few various projects together.
So you are in Rachel Shebesh's campaign?
Yes.
In 2012, 2013?
Yes.
All right. And
not in the campaign. I was part of the team.
Okay.
You understand? Yes.
So you're part of the campaign team?
Not the campaign team. Part
Which
of
other
the team. You know, there is campaigning and there is leading. After she won, she was in leadership.
So after she came in?
Yeah, I was part of the team.
What does that mean? So what position are you holding?
I was the logistics head during that time, after she came into office.
Okay.
So, of course, we did a few projects. The ones that stand out was, of course, providing food for HIV and AIDS victims in slum areas. That was the last big project I did before I exited now to go and get for more private employment, where I was for about, I left in 2017. So from 2013 to 2017, I was in the private sector and then got back into my own business now, since 2017 to now.
What's your business?
I'm in construction. I also deal in general supplies. I'm in manufacturing. Yes, it's quite a big scope.
Yeah, but
I've been in petroleum products.
You want to be president.
Yes.
So you come in here.
Yes.
Lay yourself bare.
Yes.
Because there are people who don't know you.
Okay.
So when you say I'm in construction,
yes.
I'm in manufacturing, I'm in this and the other, give us an indication. For
Okay,
example, I am the proprietor of X that does this, this and the other.
Okay.
And I've done it here,
And I've done
here,
it,
and here.
yes.
Okay.
Yes, and I build roads for free in this and this and this area.
No one builds roads for free. That is not true. No one builds roads for free. Yes, we're currently doing a project. We've been in the real estate. We're part of the people who are doing 1, 2, 3, basically supply of raw materials in the construction industry. Manufacturing, beauty, and cosmetic products. I'm currently working on the product. We should launch, I think, by the beginning of next year. We're locally manufacturing. Yes, so we're working on the right products. We're still working with the government institution. I don't like mentioning the institutions because we don't have authorization to mention them. But I'm working with one of the government institutions to develop a product right now.
Let me then ask the question.
Yes.
Why do you feel you are in a position to vie for the seat of presidency?
Because I meet all the requirements that are needed to run for the presidential seat.
Okay.
Yes.
Walk me through these requirements.
Okay, you need to have a degree. You need to be able to be elected as a member of parliament. There is the payments which I must meet. I must be a Kenyan by birth. And the others, actually meet all of them.
The reason why I asked the question is not everybody who is listening to us knows and understands what these details are.
Okay.
So when I ask for the details, I mean every detail. So that when somebody is interrogating, they say, yes, Dorothy spoke to us and she went through the list.
Okay.
And given what she told us, she actually does meet the master.
Okay.
She actually is in a position because of these.
Okay.
So, but if you generalize, then people don't quite get what it is that. So, again.
I actually like that question because since we started this journey, I've realized that we have a new constitution that most people, I won't say ignorant, but people have chosen it. Yeah, people know it exists, but people haven't taken time to to really read through and understand the changes which were made. And I think this information is in the Constitution. It's in the IEBC website. For the different roles you want to pursue, there is all the requirements that are stipulated very clearly. So me being interested in this position required that I go and look at all the requirements and check. Do I meet this? Do I meet this? Do I meet this? And me and my team were able to actually establish that we're meeting all the requirements. Then the second thing are the information that, again, we're not privy to. We need to look at Kenya as a sovereign state. And we need to look at, there was the census which was done in 2019. And from there, we're able to understand that Kenya is largely a young population. And we cannot ignore that the young people have always been involved in the politics of this country, just that it's not been meaningful involvement in the politics of this country. By that, this is what I mean. We're involved in mobilization. I think you can see that in the news every day. The youth have always... I've been a student leader, so whatever I'm speaking about is something that I've experienced. So we've been involved in mobilization to bring people together. And of course, right now, the campaigning chip for all the leaders is we want to do something for the youth. And me representing also that particular group, the youth, then I'm able to understand exactly what the problems the youth are experiencing. And what we keep saying as a team is it's time we got to sit at the table. And we say if the table don't turn, we can change seats. And if there's no space available, then we need to create our own table. And that is what we are backing our campaign on. It's time we are hard. We can no longer have representation of people who don't understand what our problems are, claiming or purporting to go and represent. Yesterday I was looking at some crazy manifesto of people being given some funny monies if you get married. That doesn't even make sense anymore. I don't think people in my generation are very keen on marriage. This is statistically proven. You understand? So exactly who are we telling that if you get married, we're going to give you this and this? My generation is not very keen on such issues. My generation is very keen on having good roads. We saw people, a tragedy happens. We want good roads for people to live. We want people to afford their living costs. Nairobi is becoming very expensive. My generation doesn't care about tribe, because us, when we stand, we say if there is a Kisi who's buying fuel at 50 shillings when the rest of the country is buying fuel at 100, some crazy prices. Those are the problems I want to attend to, not what I'm told that I'm going to give you this and this. This is not a generation that is lazy. This is a generation that wants to work and earn their living and just exist. We say kuvumilia kwa Mkenya. We don't want to live in that space anymore. And when we look at the statistics, if we're talking about having at least 47 million Kenyans, and we're talking between the ages of 1 to 35, being 34 million Kenyans, statistically, then that tells you that we do need a seat at the table, or we do need a table.
Okay,
Yes.
Kemunto, you've told us why you can be president.
Yes.
Why you can, right? You've ticked off those.
Yes.
If we were to go through a list, you say, all right, yeah, eligible 1, 2, 3. But why do you want to be president?
Why do I, Dorothy, want to be the president? Like I said, I understand what our current nation stands at. I understand what our current problems are. And I am more than qualified, one, to be the president. Then secondly, I feel like I am in the best position to actually bring in practical solutions to...
Why? I'm going to stop you there.
Why?
Why? And this is a question
Yes,
that
yes,
many
yes,
would
yes,
ask.
yes.
Why Dorothy and why not Timothy, who stands up tomorrow? And why not Jane?
Why not Raila, Ruto, Ruben Kigame? Why Dorothy?
Why you?
Why not
when
Alfred
I'm
Mutua?
making the decision, rubber meeting road, why would I select you?
Dorothy.
Yes.
Okay. I'll go back to what I'd said, but to just be more, I think the best way I can explain this to you is this. I believe in solution-oriented projects. You understand? Like, I believe in providing solutions to our problems, not problems that I am assuming or thinking that these are the problems. And I am best positioned because I belong to that particular space. and I understand the problems. And the rest of my counterparts who are pursuing the same role, I don't know them on personal levels, but I think all of us want a better Kenya. All of them, whatever they're saying they want to do for this country, that's the best way they feel like they're going to serve this country. That's the first reason. The second reason, we have a manifesto that is clearly stipulating the areas that we feel like if those areas are fixed, then we can start to go somewhere. We can start the journey to go somewhere. And then there's a very big lapse between our three groups, generations, X, Y, Z. There's a very big lapse. And I feel like I am the middleman, you understand? Like I can communicate to the younger generation better and the older generation better. And I think it's time we moved from, we need to move to mature politics whereby we're actually addressing realities, not our imaginations. Like I keep saying, we need to understand what is the problem. If I speak to you, Ndu, for instance, the three of you in here, I think your problem and his problem are very different. So there is no one fits all kind of suit that whatever I want to do for you is what I'll do for him and what I'll do for him. But like I keep saying, within my manifesto, there is one thing that we're really focusing on, which is upholding the rule of law. And there is the civic education, which he was talking about, people not being able to access information that is free and accessible to everyone about our constitution, what works, what doesn't work. And us having this, the first thing, upholding the rule of law, that can fix a lot of things in this country. A lot of things in this country. And by that it means if you understand your civic rights as a Kenyan, if you know your rights, Kenyans don't even know what their rights are. You understand?
Actually,
they don't know.
Actually, they do.
They
actually do. And if they didn't know their rights, our courts would not be overwhelmed by the cases that keep coming to them on a daily basis and in an ever-increasing number.
But are we finishing those cases in record time, or are these things we are prolonging?
Different discussion.
Yes.
We are saying...
The fact that we are litigious means that we know.
We know.
How many? What is the statistics? What are the numbers looking like?
What numbers would you need for you to be convinced that people know or they don't know?
Let me use you for an instance. When was the last time you sued someone for something, or someone did something to you and you took the person to court?
I never take people to court.
Exactly. So you knowing you're right and you pursuing it, that doesn't mean that Kenyans haven't offended you in one way or another.
I see what you're saying. I am using the courts as a yardstick for this very reason.
Yes.
When people actually take the step to go to court, it tells you of a certain awareness. Okay? And an understanding, perhaps even a belief, that the matter will receive some sort of resolution or some solution will be found within the precincts of the court. If the numbers are increasing, it simply says that awareness has increased more. I'm speaking anecdotally.
Okay.
Now, when you say Kenyans don't know their rights, that may have been true before the advent of FM radio stations and vernacular radio stations. With that advent, in almost every language that you know of in this country, people get to hear these things. All these radio stations have some forum where they're talking about the law, what it means. So the level of understanding has exponentially increased over time.
Yes.
And secondly, people talk about it. Then let's bring in social media.
Okay.
And the access that people have towards to information.
Okay.
Because of that increase as well, information that ordinarily you wouldn't know or have, you now have at your fingertips, so to say.
Yes.
So just by those numbers, and if I were to look at the statistics that you ask for and ask,
Yes.
how many people in this country have access to internet or have access to smartphones?
Okay.
The numbers are in the tens of millions in this country. So is that number convincingly high? The answer is yes. So that is my logic and that is my thinking.
I like that, and I'm in agreement with whatever you're saying fully. I'm in full agreement with whatever you're saying. But when we talk about the internet penetration, we also need to look at the regions where this internet penetration is experienced, and we're talking about the cities. But
again,
it's not a bad thing.
Again, not entirely true.
Okay.
Because all you require is a phone and a line and money in your phone, and you have access.
And telephone connectivity.
That's it. And you have access.
That is beautiful thinking. That is beautiful Nairobi thinking.
Is it out of touch with reality?
I don't want to mention that, but we can agree to some extent to what he said.
Do you think there are some parts of this country where there is no internet
access? Yes, there are places in this country where there is no electricity.
Internet access?
No, we're talking about electricity. Internet is secondary.
Okay.
We're talking about electricity.
Internet is not secondary to electricity. Yes. Internet access is different.
Yeah, it's okay. Let me again continue on the same. Last year we had a pandemic, right?
Are there places in this country where people do not have access to telephone connectivity?
Yes.
Okay. In terms of the percentage of the population, which one is a bigger percentage? Those that have access to telephone, 3G or 4G, or those that don't have?
You want me to give you a direct answer for that? Yes. But I want to use a point.
Not in terms of numbers, in terms of percentages.
Not in terms of percentage. I'm just saying, yes, last year, if whatever we were saying is the utopia, what we'd like to experience. Last year, we had a pandemic in this country. And you saw how education was affected, whereby we were not able to implement online education. If we claim that we have as much internet as we are saying on this table, you saw what we experienced where schools were shut down. Children were not able to access education, especially
in the rural
areas.
Yep.
So that should give you, I'm just trying to create a scenario to help you understand. I live in Nairobi, and until I go to my village, where there are no classrooms and where there is no internet or there is just one smartphone, and those children were just using one smartphone, this size, to learn for the entire school. For the entire school. I'm talking about where I come from in Kisii. I'm not talking about the rest of this country. That should paint a bigger picture than we'd like to believe that we have internet in this country. Yes, statistics shows that we consume a lot. And I think our speeds are very good compared to the East African community.
Compared to other parts.
But I'm talking about Kenya at large. I'm not just talking about Nairobi city, or I'm not talking about Mombasa.
Let me give you the statistics, Kemunto. 85% of Kenyans have access to internet connectivity. 85.2 to be precise.
How many people have access to phones in Kenya? In the population we use, the 47 million?
The number of people who have phones is not they look at the number of phones that are available.
Nairobi people have 3, 4, 5 phones. How many phones do we have here?
Okay. We're quibbling about connectivity, and for a very specific reason.
Yes.
We are arguing about information that people have and an understanding of their rights.
Yes.
Now, I'm going to ask you a difficult question.
Please do.
You want to be president.
Yes.
Should you not be the one who has these statistics at their fingertips?
I have an entire team that provides these statistics.
Have they provided no. Have they provided you with them?
I'm giving you the reality. Whatever statistics I've provided for you is...
You actually haven't given me any statistics at all.
In terms of connectivity, in terms of access to the law, or in terms of access to information. Which one do you want?
Dorothy.
Yes.
That you want to be president is a good thing.
Yes.
The process of being a president is far more difficult.
Yes, it's bigger
than any question that we're going to ask you here.
Yes.
Now, what I want you to be telling our listeners is your level of preparedness with regards to this job and how able you are actually. So the questions that I'm asking are actually specific so that you can respond, and in responding, demonstrate clearly that actually you have a handle on this thing.
Let's take a break. Let's take a break. It's 29 minutes after 7. You'll respond to this as we continue the conversation as we go on. Dorothy Kemunto is a Nairobi businesswoman. She wants to be the next president of the Republic of Kenya. She's here with us. She's telling us what her thinking is, what she wants to do if she's given the job by Kenyans. Let's take a quick break. We'll be back shortly. Good morning.
This is the Situation Room, the only way to start your day. "24/7 around the world, non-stop. This is SpiceFM.
Famous, the secrets we keep, live La Liga action. Offer ya Showmax Black Friday special imeingia. Lipa for 1 month and get a second month sare. Yani 2 whole months of the biggest shows in Kenya na English Premier League footer and lots more. Zote kwa one low price only on Showmax. Offer inachomoka soon, so sign up chap at showmax.com.
The events of the past 2 years have seen the Christmas season lose its charm and excitement, but all that is in the past now. This December, Tis the Season is bringing back the spirit, the joy, the essence of Christmas with a Kenyan twist. Tis the Season invites you, your family and your loved ones to the Junction Mall, Nairobi on the 10th, 11th and 12th of December for Tis the Season, a very Kenyan Christmas directed by Atemi Oyungu with music by Eric Wainaina and produced by Sheba Hast. Get your tickets now on Ticket Sasa. Come one, come all, and let's make merry and have a jolly good time. All guidelines set by the Ministry of Health shall be followed.
The sun's coming out through those clouds in Nairobi, sprinkled in some parts, highs of 24 and lows of 15 today. Sunny in Nakuru City at 13, highs of 26, 23 with a high in Nyeri where it's cloudy at 16, and Eldoret is sunny at 13, highs of 24 and lows of 12. We're looking at sunny conditions in Mombasa at 26, highs of 31 and lows of 24, and in Malindi it's sunny at 28, we'll see highs of 32 and lows of 27. Kisumu is mostly cloudy at 20, highs of 30 and lows of 19, and we have sunny conditions in Kakamega as well, good highs of 30 and lows of 15. Sunny conditions in Kampala at 20, highs of 28 and lows of 17, and it's raining in Dar es Salaam at 25, highs of 31 and lows of 24. Mostly cloudy conditions in Joburg at 15, highs of 22 and lows of 14, and Lagos is clear at 26, highs of 33. It's raining in Kinshasa at 24. We'll see highs of 30 and lows of 23.
.9 Spice FM, Mombasa.
All right, it's continuing to build up on Mombasa Road. We're having it all the way from Sabaki out towards the SGR. And then beyond that, there's the option of taking the long route, the ICD route, and then spilling over to the Southern Bypass. That's an option. If you're coming off of the Lekoni interchange, you might want to nip round and use the Southern Bypass. That's definitely a better option right now. Thika Superhighway taking it hot and heavy this Monday morning, letting up just a little bit as you get to the drive-in, but it continues to be crazy traffic there and on Kiambu Road as well. That whole Parklands, Westlands area is quite a mess this morning. We're looking at Ngara coming into the CBD as quite messy off the Thika Superhighway. It's Monday morning. This to be expected. A lot going on. What's happening where you are? Talk to us on SpiceFM KE on Twitter, text 40127.
So the conversation continues at 27 minutes to 8, Kenya's biggest conversation, www.showmax.com. Please log on to www.showmax.com and choose one of the packages that you'd like to go for. Now remember, Showmax is giving you a 14-day free trial. You don't get charged until the trial ends. After that, if you choose to subscribe to Showmax anytime today, you will get an extra 1 month free for whatever package that you choose. Whether you choose the Showmax Pro or Showmax Pro Mobile, whatever one you choose, you get an extra 1 month free. And it's good for you because you get access to all this premium content, and you can actually log on to Showmax on 5 different devices, be it a laptop, a PC, a smartphone, a Chromecast, a smart TV, gaming console, you name it. You can actually watch Showmax. You can log on to Showmax on 5 different devices at the same time. Keep it here for more conversations around that.
Spice up your life. Mature, intelligent talk every morning. Spice up yourself.
25 minutes to 8, Kenya's biggest conversation continues. We are having a conversation with businesswoman Dorothy Kemunto, who is running business, who's been in the team of the first Nairobi woman rep, Rachel Shebesh, who's also been a woman leader in the University of Nairobi student leadership, who's also been in the KEPSA youth board chair, not chair, right? Just in the board of KEPSA, representing the youth and gender sector
board.
Okay. CT, you asked her a question before we took a break. Just revisit the question.
I did. I'm going to rephrase the question. Let me rephrase the question. You know, one of the things that people have in manifestos is essentially it's a solution book, according to me, meaning they've looked at the country that they live in and the country they want to represent or be president of, and they've said, look, this is how this is my roadmap. This is how we are going to be tackling these problems. This is how we are going to be looking at them. Now, one of the things that we keep talking about in this country is education.
Yes.
Okay?
Yes.
Education, inadequate teachers, inadequate classrooms, substandard facilities. Yes. The poorly paid bit I will leave aside. Poorly paid compared to whom? Okay? That I will leave aside. But these are things that touch the heart of everyone. That's why I started with education.
Yes.
In your manifesto, how do you hope to ensure that this particular sector of our country is well managed and that the people who need this service actually get the best that they can from the service?
Okay. Our Kenya's education system, of course, again, is within our manifesto. And again, I like thought-provoking conversations, and I'd like to ask generally, when was the last time we had a public primary school built, or a public secondary school built, or a public tertiary institution built? And that's part of the things I keep saying, that we lost our direction at some point. Part of the projects we want to work on is to ensure that we provide Kenyans with options whereby you can choose, because once you pay taxes, actually the public institutions are supposed to be built using taxes. So, like for instance, if you're here, you'd like your child to pursue their education in a public institution, all through which I did, then they should have that option. So again, with the population increase in the country, then we need also to have better planning and implement and make sure that we're giving Kenyans these options, that it's not just private institutions that you're going to go to. Then we're going to also look at the quality of education which is being offered. The first thing we need to create is a conducive environment for our children to learn. We can't have our children studying under trees or being... we saw something in the news whereby children were being ferried across to their schools on makeshift boats. We can't have our children experiencing that. Our 844 system was what I experienced. My parents experienced it was 763. And they say it was good. I say 844 was good. But we have other options. We have the British system, which is being offered in this country. But I'd like to give Kenyans options. You get to choose. Right now, it's almost impossible to get your child admitted in a public primary school. I was in Donholm Primary. I was there 2 weeks ago. There is no vacancy. The classes we left are the same. We just keep building. With the CDF, I think we keep doing just one extra class, which is not in tandem with the population increase if we look at all the different regions. So that's something we'd like to look into, have more public primary schools, have more public secondary schools, have more public tertiary institutions. Then again, we have to look at the funding option, whereby right now tertiary public universities, I think the HELB loans have been lowered. And I think like the University of Nairobi doubled its school fees. They increased the school fees, and not really doubled, because it was from 35,000 per year to 59,000. That was what was indicated. But I went to school using HELB. I've paid my HELB fully. So I think we need to also increase the kitty such that when there's this increment in the school fees for public institutions, then the students should be able to afford it. Because right now and then people are being pushed to not go to school, not because they're not qualified, but because they cannot afford it. And if you understand the history of this country about public universities, how students, when they got the boom, I think boom was lifted. My parents experienced the boom. So those are things we need to look at. we need to make even education affordable. If education is as good as we say it is, then we need to make it affordable. Then we need to make sure it's quality. When you look at the teachers that you're saying, we have a lot of people who've gone through university and colleges and they've acquired these degrees and these training certificates, but now we're not employing, we're doing contracts. Or the ones who
So what
would
it take, Kemunto?
Have not been paid. I know.
What would it take to
paid.
increase
Yes.
the schools that are required?
It's just about having a proper budget that is all inclusive and having all these stakeholders being put at the table when it comes to budgeting and us finding ways to raise this money and actually provide this. You understand what
So
I
how
mean?
many schools per year? If you are elected president, how many schools would you need to do in the 5 years of your first term?
Depending on the location, Nairobi will need, of course, a higher number.
Okay.
We'll look at the available spaces. We'll look at the population in those areas. So, like, we can plan at least to do even 100 primary schools in Nairobi within the first year.
Is this in your manifesto currently?
Yes, it is in our manifesto.
So what you're trying to understand is the details of your manifesto.
Yes.
So when you say you already have obviously scoped the entire country and said this county has this kind of population and this kind of children who require to be in school, and these are the number of schools. So just give us an example of Nairobi, because you say you worked with Rachel Shebesh.
No, but like I keep saying, let's stick to Dorothy and not...
No.
Yeah.
The reason I'm putting it here is you worked with Rachel Shebesh, who was the woman rep for Nairobi. So you understand Nairobi very well, like you told us.
Yes.
So let's work with Nairobi County. How many schools are needed in Nairobi County, and how do you hope to get them done?
Right now, we're doing central procurement for education-related matters. So, of course, Eastlands might need more schools than we do need in the high-end areas because of the population. The population is supposed to inform. If you're talking about statistics, having 35 children in one class, that is what is the preferred number, 35 per class.
Yes.
And that is one teacher to 35 students. That's what informs the number of students. So right now, I'm not the president. Next year, there might be a surge in how many people get into primary school. There are those levels.
There might not be a surge. There cannot be a surge. It's either you have seen the statistics, how they're growing, so you can project.
Yes.
So if you want to be president next year,
yes,
how many schools do you want to build in Nairobi in the next 5 years? As president of the Republic of Kenya, we're just using Nairobi as an example because you have
100 schools, at least 100 schools within the first year.
Primary or secondary or both?
Primary, then we escalate. If we do, there's always the ratio. If we do 100 primary, then we need to also look at the transition rates, how many people get to secondary schools. And then again, we do the same statistics and we do the numbers and we see.
So 100 primary schools in Nairobi within the first year?
Yeah.
This is catering for how many new students? How many students?
We're looking at 35. So it's influenced again or informed by the number of streams we intend to have in these schools.
Okay.
And the location.
So how many
streams?
streams? When you say 100 schools, it's what size of school? 100 schools from kindergarten to standard 8 with what capacity?
What do you mean with what capacity?
How many pupils per school?
We're trying to create the ideal of 35 students per class.
Okay.
You understand?
All right.
35 per class. So if we're building a school, then we need to have the numbers so that we're able to get projections and we're able to fit into those numbers.
So I'm asking specifically to your manifesto because you've said it's in your manifesto. 100 primary schools in Nairobi in a year. And you want each classroom to have 35 students. So how many streams for standard 1, 2, 3, 4, 5?
Okay.
Basically, what I'm just seeking to understand is
President
Kemunto, when she does 100 schools, will have sorted the issue of primary schools in Nairobi going forward. Or will we have...
Yes.
That's what I'm seeking to understand.
Now I understand your line of questioning. You need to understand the strategic angle, which is what we're saying, the 100 schools that we're looking into.
Okay.
That is our projection. You understand?
Yeah.
And in every projection, there has to be a success rate. And within those numbers, we need to transfer even the schools which are already overcrowded. The schools which are already overcrowded, that doesn't mean that necessarily we're going to put new students into those schools. There are schools which exist.
Redistribution.
Redistribution.
True.
That is what I'm looking at.
Okay.
So the final number that you look at will be informed by all these other things. We are having classes which are holding up to 100 students. You understand?
Yeah.
Which is around 65 above the number that is expected. That is what I'm meaning. Like with the manifesto, you have to look at it from a strategic point. Okay. I'm not looking at throwing these beautiful statements which are not applicable. I'm looking at what is the reality. If we are having 100 students right now in class, even us putting back our children back to school last year, you saw what we went through because of the 1 meter spacing. It was almost impossible.
Yeah.
We're having our children studying under trees in these rains.
So
those are the things we're looking at.
So you're saying with the current population of students in schools today, that we're looking then at construction of new schools
that can
to now reduce the number of students that are currently in class
and
over 35.
Allow for more to come in.
Okay.
Yes.
I think also very important to hear is that right now, if I were to go and apply for a job and I sit in an interview, the questions that they would ask me is that how would your experience then fuel, the current job? What is it that you have done? What are the activities that you've been involved in that would then now say, Kemunto then is well fixed to do this job? Okay. The presidency is not your run-of-the-mill job that you would do on a daily basis. It's very different because now you're encompassing all of these things and then putting them together. Whether you have ministries, whether you have state departments, whether you have a foreign policy, for example, whether you have an eye on how you want the country to be able to run with all these different people under you, from intelligence to defense, to the judiciary, to parliament, to devolution and counties. I mean, it's across board. There can be one thing that you actually want to do, and that would be a legacy. But then what in your experience, what in the work that you have done, or even things that you've aspired to do, would then unequivocally set you in the minds of Kenyans as somebody then who is prepared for the presidency?
Okay. As when it comes to the education issue that we've been addressing, I've volunteered, like I said, as a Rotarian and as a Rotaractor. And one of the things that we focused on was, of course, education and literacy. And in that experience in volunteering, that's when you get to see the raw data of what we say, what is on the ground, what is the reality, what happens. You understand? Like it's a day-to-day kind of experience for me, because this is something I've done across actually 4 or 5 countries in Africa, and then we've done across, of course, in the other continents. But the message is the same. What we want is the same thing. We want quality education. We want our teachers to be paid to be, let's look at even the transition to CBC, which is a very beautiful program. But were the teachers equipped to transition to that? Were there training sessions for them to transition to that? Were they receptive? Were they involved in the formulation? As a president, we need to understand the president falls in the executive, the 3 arms of government. We have the judiciary, which you are talking about, the security and people who are supposed to implement the law.
You have the executive, you have the legislature,
who are supposed to make our laws,
then
we have the executive. I think we don't want to suffer from the savior complex whereby people just look at one human being doing everything. That's why we have all these 3 arms of the government. And the role is we're supposed to integrate our roles and we're supposed to work hand in hand, not cross over and do other people's jobs. You understand? We have institutions in these countries which are highly paid, individuals who are highly paid to do certain things like the ones you're asking me. We have a cabinet secretary, I think, for education, who's paid very well to make sure some of these things work. That's what I'm saying. Like, as a president, my role is not to override or bully myself or dictate. There are already structures in place that are supposed to make sure these things that I'm talking about work. My role as the president is to make sure that we work in tandem as a team and we get to accomplish the same things, which means we need to understand what the problems are, not provide solutions that we feel fit us, or we throw again these grand gestures. I'm going to take 1 million students to school. You understand? That is not practical.
Actually,
There's a lot.
it can be done. You're right when you say that there are structures in place, and you're even more right when you say there are people whose function and duty is to ensure these things get done. That is absolutely true. But you see, when you have a manifesto, it's like your roadmap.
Yes.
And when you think of people who will carry out that mandate, you want people who think like you, people who can share that, we call it vision.
Yes.
Because in the absence of that, with a structure and with a system, we will be talking about the same situation we have now, where you have all those things, and yet we are discussing this thing because it's a problem. We are asking about the schools because it is a problem. That 35 ratio, 35 students to one
class.
teacher,
Per
it is
teacher.
not in existence. You're talking about 60, 70, in some places even 100. So, and the classroom size hasn't changed.
Even toilets.
It is the same classroom that
Combinations.
was supposed to fit 30. So where do these students sit? On top of each other? I mean, you actually begin to ask your question, how do these people actually learn? Now, we chose to talk about education because if somebody has a viable solution for resolving this matter in a way that you can see, yes, at the end of this, we will have a situation that makes the learner comfortable and enables that particular part of our country or that particular system serve the needs of the citizens well. If one can't get that right, how then do we know that you'll get other things right?
If you can't get the education system right, or if you can't get that.
No, yes, my feeling.
wrong.
That is my personal thinking.
Okay, again, I think I can say I like him and his line of questioning. Not to batter you up, but I think, again, we need to look at how we've conducted our business in this country in terms of giving these positions to the people who currently sit in those positions. We have a lot of incompetencies that we keep rewarding over and over and over again. Same people, we just keep recycling. People who don't even understand those jobs. But we still pay them and we don't ask them. The questions you're asking me, we should be holding the CS for education right now, asking him, why are these classes overcrowded? What is the plan? You understand? But we've assumed we have this savior complex whereby we think it's just one man who's supposed to solve all these problems, which is not the case. The CS for education needs to come up with, within my manifesto of what I want to pursue or what I want to achieve in the education system. I, as Dorothy, the president, coming president, I'm supposed to sit down with this team and let's work on contracts, achievable contracts. What is it that you want to do? This is what I want to achieve. How can this be done? What are the resources needed?
Where does the buck stop, Dorothy? Between the CS and the president?
The president?
Okay.
Yes.
The president is the appointing authority.
Yes,
the president has a free hand to go and look throughout the country of Kenya and pick somebody who they will nominate for the position of CS for education. Right?
Yes.
So the president has to have a lot of in-depth understanding of the areas and issues that are affecting the education sector. So when they are selecting this person, they know that this person has the capacity to drive my agenda when it comes to education. That means the president has to have good understanding of the issues at hand. So that he can also give the leadership to the CS. So the buck stops with the president. Okay. And that's why we're asking those questions. So what does your manifesto say? But let's also not just look at education. Maybe what I want to ask you is, from your manifesto, what is the most urgent need that Kenya has today that you want to address, that you want to say, my manifesto is actually focused on maybe 1, 2, 3 issues?
Okay, the first is, of course, upholding the rule of law, which I mentioned. The second one is I want to focus on industrialization as a country because we need to solve the state of unemployment in this country. And again, being paid for what you do, not what I think you deserve. You understand? Like standardize even the payment. Labor laws need to standardize payment. Equal work, equal pay, not just for women or youth or, your experience should warrant that you should get, but the basic pay needs to be standardized. And it has to be able to afford where you live. You understand? Like if you live in Nairobi, you should be able to afford where you live.
So this is standardized pay in the civil service or
across the country. It doesn't matter.
Looking at the minimum
we
wage.
all suffer the same. I don't think civil servants buy milk at different places. You understand? We're all experiencing the same thing. We should be able to experience our country. And when I talk about industrialization, of course, I'm looking at economical industrialization and, of course, the social angle whereby we need to create... we need to push out skills that apply to the current market. Whereby right now we have the expressway. I think you see it every day, and you see the people who are working on those roads. And we have engineers in this country. We have people who can do those jobs. We have... the funniest thing is even the sand we're using is our sand, or the cement is our cement. But if you look at who's the project heads, what is done, and we look at what happens after these people are gone when it comes to maintenance. If people are not involved in that project, what happens after that? So in the industrialization, and I'm talking social angle of industrialization, is making sure that we produce the ideal skill set or the applicable skill set that is conversant with the times, 2021 times. You understand? We can no longer learn theory when we live in a practical world. The third thing I'm looking at is, of course, the integration of the security team. I don't understand why in 2021 police officers are living in metallic houses. I feel like that's something also we need to look at. Even then, just having them integrated into society. You understand?
What does that mean? I don't understand.
You remember
integrating the police
into the society, them
in
living in
where
camps.
they live, their
in terms
accommodation,
of their accommodation, the way they live
amongst everybody
else.
else.
Live with the people. Because if actually the intention is to protect the people, how best will you protect the people? Because right now, if there's an accident in this particular space, I know within this institution you do have the police on your call, but you're looking at homes whereby there's all these things which are happening. Domestic violence, all these things. By the time you call the police to actually come into the space. But if they live within those communities, then it will be easier. Even if we have terrorists or these people who are just harmful to the environment, we already, if the police are within the system, within the people, within the environment, then they're able to preempt. Some things shouldn't happen. We should be able to preempt some of these things. Those are the top 3 things within our manifesto.
So are you running on a political party, or are you running as an independent candidate?
It's still very early to declare. Within the IBC laws, we still have time to
No. You already announced that you'd like to be a president.
Yes, I'd like to be a president. Even if I decide to go on an independent party or independent ticket, it's still within
so you still
my
haven't decided what vehicle you want to do?
We are having discussions with various teams. If we agree, we'll on board. If we don't agree, it's still within my constitutional right again to go on an independent ticket.
Are you ready to have conversations with other candidates?
Of course. We all want the same thing. Being a president is, I keep saying, this is a vocational role. Being a leader, it's a vocational role. If we all want the same things for Kenyans, what are we fighting about? What is really the fight about? We want to serve Kenyans, and we want to provide the best country for the citizens. So then it's not a personal journey. It's about the people.
We have seen previously candidates come out to say, I want to be president.
Yes.
Then the next thing they are running for Senate.
Okay.
Or MP.
Yes.
Or governor.
Yes.
Are we likely to see the same from Dorothy Kemunto?
That's not my intention.
So it's president or bust?
I want to vie for the presidency.
Okay.
Yes.
Final message to Kenyans this morning. We're listening to you in about 30 seconds.
Okay. I keep saying, I know as Kenyans we're very hungry and we're very angry. But I think we need to be more tolerant of each other. Even if we don't agree on people's different opinions, we need to be very peaceful in how we conduct ourselves and how we conduct our business. Yes.
Asante sana. Dorothy Kemunto, businesswoman, says she'd like to be Kenya's 5th president. You've heard her this morning. Make up your mind. She'll be coming back and, telling us what vehicle she's using, whether she's going as an independent candidate or joining a political party, whatever ticket she'll be running with. She'll let us know as the days go by. This is Kenya's biggest conversation, the Situation Room. Keep it right here. In the next hour, we look at what candidates such as Dorothy and the others have been telling us, what they want to do for the country. And we open up the phone lines for us to have a conversation. What is it that we want to see from our presidential candidates? This is Kenya's biggest conversation, the Situation Room on SpiceFM. It's now 8 a.m.
spice up your life. The latest news from around the world. 94.4 Spice FM.
This is Newsround. Dennis Aseto. President Uhuru Kenyatta has warned Kenyans to avoid swollen rivers during the heaviest rainy season after more than 32 people were killed when their bus was swept away in River Enzio. The head of state sent his heartfelt condolences to the families that lost their loved ones in the unfortunate incident in Mwingi, Kitui County, when a bus they were traveling in plunged into River Enzio. He reminded Kenyans across the country to heed government advisory against attempting to cross swollen rivers, especially during the current rainy season. These as rescue operations, according to Kitui Governor Charity Ngilu, will continue today to ensure that no bodies have been stuck by the riverbank. The Sangware community living near the Kabolet water source in Trans Nzoia County is complaining about water shortages despite water pipes being laid down in their farms to Kitale and neighboring counties. Residents including Sarah Cherono and James Arabi say community is marginalized, which has led to waterborne diseases as area locals are forced to use river water. They now want the government to come to their aid and ensure that the water problem in the area is addressed. ODM presidential aspirant Jimmy Wanjigi has now vowed that he will not attend the climax of the Azimio la Umoja meeting at the Kasarani slated for Friday this week. The summit, to be presided over by ODM chief Raila Odinga, will see important communication given, with the biggest news being expected is that Odinga's presidential ambition for the 2022 general elections. Wanjigi has maintained that he was never invited to the event and that according to him, Raila Odinga is not a presidential hopeful, and if he is, then he is his rival and is ready to fight for the party's flag bearer. Deputy President William Ruto's United Democratic Alliance has settled on its likely candidate for a running mate post in the next election. The clearest indication was given in Nyeri by Deputy President William Ruto that he will most likely pick on Mathira Member of Parliament Rigathi Gachagua as his running mate. Ruto said that Gachagua is one of his trusted allies, and as such, he would want him in his national campaign to boost his chances of becoming president next year. This as the DP continues to traverse the country to sell his UDA party and the bottom-up economic model. Adama Barrow comfortably won a second term in the Gambia's presidential election, with thousands of his supporters celebrating in the streets of Banjul, although his opponents disputed the results announced late yesterday. Barrow, whose assumption of the presidency 5 years ago ended more than 20 years of dictatorship, garnered more than 53% of the vote, according to results released by the Electoral Commission. His main challenger, Oswanu Dabur, won 27.7%. The election, the first since former dictator Yahya Jammeh fled into exile, is seen as crucial for the young West African democracy. Rescuers in Indonesia raced to find survivors in villages blanketed by molten ash after the eruption of Mount Semeru killed at least 14 people and left dozens injured. The eruption of the biggest mountain on the island of Java caught locals by surprise, sending thousands fleeing and forcing hundreds of families into makeshift shelters. At least 11 villages of Lumajang district in East Java were coated in volcanic ash, submerging houses and vehicles, smothering livestock and leaving at least 1,300 evacuees seeking shelter in mosques, schools and village halls. To sports, and Lewis Hamilton won a crazy, twice-halted Saudi Arabian Grand Prix to send the Formula One World Championships into a winner-takes-all final showdown, with the Mercedes driver and Red Bull's Max Verstappen level on points. On a chaotic night of soaring emotions in Jeddah, the inaugural race in the Gulf Kingdom took almost as many twists and turns as an early astonishing and enthralling roller coaster season. There were crashes, safety cars, red flags, claims of dirty driving after Hamilton hit the back of Verstappen, suddenly slowing car, penalties, collisions and extraordinary exchanges between the race director Michael Masi and top two teams. 7 times world champion Hamilton took the bonus points for fastest lap to level with Verstappen on 369.5 points after 21 races. The final round of the season is at Abu Dhabi's Yas Marina this coming weekend. This is Newswire. I'm Dennis Aseto.
.102.5 Spice FM, Kisumu.
Are you trying to get off Langata Road? You want to go the way of Raila Odinga Way this morning and use that to get towards Ngong Road. However, it's quite packed this morning and we're looking at traffic that's already built up. There's usually an escape route, Raila Odinga Way, but not this morning. Uhuru Highway then, Aerodrome already piling onto Uhuru Highway, and we're looking at traffic from the city all the way through into Westlands. Coming off of Thika Superhighway, that's already quite packed as well. Kamkunji is taking a big hit this morning, as is Haile Selassie Avenue, and all the way from Ngong Road into the city, out towards Kamkunji, spilling off from Ngong Road, spilling off also, and then taking on to Jogo Road this morning. So it's quite packed everywhere you look. Thika Superhighway, that traffic is ebbing and flowing, doesn't seem to stop quite just yet. And the Kiambu Road in and outbound traffic is quite a mess. Folks got the memo to pile the streets this morning, and we're just going to have to keep an eye on things and see how they open up. We're in the middle of traffic hour. It's going to take us out past 9:30 probably is what we are looking at. So let's keep an eye on things, guys. Help us out as well on SpiceFM KE on Twitter. Text 40127.
This is The Situation Room, the home of hard-hitting political commentary and penetrating insights about the state of the nation. This is a talk radio experience like no other. The Situation Room, a place for hard truths, debates, and elevated conversations. The Situation Room, witty, political, engaging, deep, controversial. In the room, we have C.T. Muga, researcher, academic, seasoned political observer, a fountain of wisdom in these politically uncertain times. Ndu Okoh, Nigerian by birth, Kenyan by choice, communications expert, Pan-Africanist, a truth seeker and believer in people power, and Eric Latiff, agent provocateur, the man in the chair, seasoned journalist, news hound, a man who believes in punching up, not down. This is The Situation Room.
It's 7 minutes
the
after 8.
Way to
Good morning.
your
How
day.
are you doing? Welcome to Kenya's biggest conversation. If you're just joining us, if you've been with us since the beginning of the show at 6 a.m., Asante Sana. We are live streaming the show on SpiceFM KE, YouTube, Facebook and Twitter. We are also live on SpiceFM around the country. 94.4 in Nairobi. Mombasa, it's 87.9. 102.5 in Kisumu. Nakuru is 96.0. 96.7 in Eldoret. Nyeri, 90.9. And Malindi is 97.7. For the next 1 hour, we are also live on KTN Home. We begin the hour with the day's proverb. CT.
Siku njema huonekana asubuhi.
Siku njema huonekana subuhi.
Yes, subuhi.
Subuhi. What does that mean in English? For those of us who are listening to us from the
direct translation is that a good day is known early in the morning or in the morning. If a day is going to be good, it will be known in the morning.
It'll show itself.
Yes, because the day begins in the morning. So if the day is going to be good, the start of that day is where the indication of what the day portends will actually manifest itself.
Okay. So we've just heard from presidential hopeful Dorothy Kemunto, who was here with us, and she's telling us what she wants to do if she becomes president. We've previously held conversations as well with various other people who would like to be president, right? We've had a conversation with Reuben Kigame. We've had a conversation with Musalia Mudavadi long before, and he has maintained the same conversation. For him, it's about fiscal discipline. Reuben Kigame is also about our values and fighting corruption and getting the country back to its path. Yesterday, the governor of Machakos County, Dr. Alfred Mutua, whom was also hosted here before, launched his manifesto. And he said, among various things that he'd like to do for the country if elected president, are several things. For example, on the issue of the youth agenda, he says he'll create 5 million new jobs for the youth in the first 3 years of his government. Entertainment industry will be a major income producer. Free music and video production centers in every county to grow. TV shows and music being played on TV and radios to have 80% of local content. Removal of duty and taxes on filming and equipment. And this is just on that. On manufacturing, Revival of stalled factories. 3-year tax relief for all new factories set up in Kenya. When it comes to manufacturing steel, he says new factories in all constituencies, setting up special economic zones in all counties. Government to invest new factories within business parks. Integrity and accountability. Eliminate processes and bureaucracy. Fund the judiciary effectively and agree with the Chief Justice for the establishment of courts dedicated to corruption cases only. We have that, don't we?
Nani?
I continue.
Courts, yes.
Integrity and accountability. More speedy completion of cases. Established, reviewed factory price reserve prices for the cost of goods and services. Those found guilty of corruption will have to serve time. And he writes that in capital letters. Ease of doing business. One-stop shop for registration of businesses or obtaining permits. For our business registration. Waiver of duties for importation of equipment required for the establishment of a business. Begin a bi-weekly salary payment system to keep money in circulation. You understand what he's saying?
Yep.
To keep money in circulation, pay people twice a month. Not for 2 months. Same salary, just
Split it.
give
Pay
advance.
you on the 15th and then pay you on
So
the 30th.
advance becomes legal. Social welfare, special funds for persons with disabilities. Funds to fund religious organizations to manage children's homes, support the widowed, provide care to their parishioners who are facing hard times. A fund for those between 40 and 60 years old for funding for school fees, assets and personal skills training at a maximum rate of 2%. You are below that. That's in my age bracket. 40 to 60 will get funded for funding for school fees, assets and personal skills. Security. Create community zones. Track released criminals and known gangs. Watchmen and women to be paid decent wages. A minimum for a watchman and woman is 20,000 shillings a month. Install CCTV cameras across the country. Police packages and salaries to be reviewed upwards, comparative to international standards. Ensure that each officer has a bulletproof vest, a radio set, and other necessary accessories for their security and operations. You want me to continue?
No.
This is just one individual.
No. I don't want you to continue.
Okay. This is just one individual, right? And this is great. It really is really good stuff in terms of the promises that are being made, of the things that can be done. When you hear it, it is titillating, right? You hear it and you're thinking, wow, this is great. You can imagine the country that you would live in when such things were to happen. However, it is lofty in promise. And this is my issue with some of these things. That you make these promises and we're yet to see promises that have been made on the campaign trail that have actually come to pass. Come to pass in completion, right? Come to pass as you have said them, so they will be done. And unfortunately, we can only take from historical experience and apply that to the present promise. We can only do that. And in as much, my real hope is, because otherwise it's akin to criminal if you would tell people that you're going to do something without the full intent to do it. Because it's not a capacity issue here. If you don't have the intent to actually get your boots on the ground and do these things that you have promised, you can be likened to a thug, because you're telling Kenyans that you essentially lift them out of poverty. You will stop the things that have been the bane of negative existence this whole time. You will raise the profile of the country economically. You will bring in all this development. You will do things for people's lives, because what you've done is that you've seen the current suffering of Kenyans. And in your expectation that they will heed what it is that you're saying, you are sacrificing their expectations on the altar of your desire. That's what you're doing. You're saying, I really want to be president so bad. I want to be in the place of utmost power. So I'm going to take the expectations of these people. I'm going to put them on this altar, and we will now offer up this burnt offering in the name of elections. But then that's it. When it's done, when all is done and dusted, how can you guarantee that these things that you're telling Kenyans will actually be done? You know, we look at them and we laugh, but this is serious stuff, you guys. This is serious stuff. That you tell people that essentially what you're going to do is that you're going to alleviate the current suffering. That the things that they have known for the longest time, which have been negative for them, you essentially are going to change those things. Without a true intent of actually doing.
But Ndu, how do you know that there's no intent?
Unfortunately, we cannot judge intent. But I am going solely on historical experience. I am going solely on things that people have said to you before and they have not done. You know what I would like? You know what I would really like to see? Take one thing. Take one thing which you can actually do and stick to it and say, this is what we would like to change.
So you think they're putting too many things in that basket?
Even if
some
you
of them
wake
are
up
unrealistic.
very early in the morning, you will not be able to do all of those things at once. And I think that in that truth is when you show Kenyans your real hand. In that truth, when you say, truly, we're not going to be able to do all of these things at once. But you know what? I'd like to tackle this one thing. And that's how I'd like to start off. Being honest. It's not even this whole grocery list of the things that you can do. I think it comes from an attitude. It comes from an attitude saying, you know what, guys, we're in the pit. But how about you give me an opportunity to get from point A to point B as your leader? It's honesty. And I think that's what Kenyans are asking for. Present a position of honesty and stop all this thing of promising everything at once. It sounds nice,
so
but it's
with
not
one
practical.
Thing.
It's not practical.
So, for example, you'd like Dr. Alfred Mutua to stick to one. Maybe choose. One of the things that he said yesterday was a pledge to give newly married couples between 500,000 and 1 million shilling loans from the government to build homes. It's basically a mortgage. It's a 20-year with a 20-year tenure.
Of all
500,000 to 1 million shillings, every married couple, just to start off with you on life.
As you look at the country today, is that the thing that's doing you? That married couples don't have houses? As you look at the country today, and that's what I'm saying, take an honest view of what's going on. As you look at it today, would that be the one thing that you say, this is what is really needed?
What's one of the biggest issues that affects people? Rent. Basics in life. Food, shelter, clothing.
You don't do. One of the things that, let me start by saying, everything you've said is absolutely true. And the questions you've raised deserve an honest answer. But when you listen to politicians speaking and making promises, you know full well that it begins and ends right there. Those who have said they would make changes and have made changes, we have seen. Those who have attempted to make changes and we've seen where the attempts have gotten to, we have seen. By their fruits you shall know them. It is not, this isn't a torturous journey. One of the things that I have heard being said about President Uhuru is the belief that there are many things he hasn't done. You know, that, unfortunately, is an extremely incomplete picture. Because you are not looking at the country as a whole and you're not looking at what has happened. I'm just looking at happened in the time President Uhuru has been president and the things that have been done. If you're talking about at what cost, that's a completely different discussion, but done. Now, my problem is not the promises that are made. Politicians must make promises. They must. They must talk about the things they want to do. Even if they sound unrealistic, somebody who is genuinely willing to put the boots on the ground could actually achieve some of these things. Okay? But what I find unpalatable, personally, what I find completely unpalatable is when somebody who is telling us they have the wish to run the country doesn't honestly speak to their citizens. Honestly, when I say honestly, instead of telling us about what you plan to do only, surely don't they have people in their teams who have a little imagination to say, folks, some of these things are difficult to achieve because of A, B, C, D. And in the past, they haven't been achieved because of A, B, C, D. But if we start, remember we've had this discussion in the studio before. What if we look at the details of how it is we're going to do this? telling us about a manifesto in general, then telling us to look for links and websites, that is a completely wasted conversation. You are talking about what you want to do. For heaven's sake, talk about it and give us details and tell us some of the hardships you may encounter and how you hope to overcome them. But to speak as though there are no problems, to speak as though all you need to do is to become president and then these things will get done, when we know full well, as do you, that these things will not happen quite in the same way.
But you see, as we're talking about all these things, which is really true, politicians will come out there and they'll give us all these lofty ideas and tell us, I'd like to take you to this beautiful place. Who encourages them? It's with the voter.
No, themselves.
We sit there and we listen and we laugh about it. We turn it to a joke. Mutua wants to give all married people 500,000 shillings.
We do.
And we move on.
We do.
Oh, they told us they'll give us steady. We laugh.
We do.
So they come back to us. I mean, we know we promised you 5. In fact, now we're making it 7.
But
the audacity to stand in front of a public and you're launching a second manifesto and saying, we know we had told you 5. We haven't done a single one. In fact, now we're going to make it 7. And people sit back and we clap. We are the ones who encourage these people to come and give us all this nonsense that they give us.
Eric,
we want to convert this into a 24-hour economy, and then what are you talking about?
I haven't quite gotten the gist of what you are saying. I do now. Because I imagine a situation, because I had this light bulb moment where a politician comes and says, I will make sure it rains in the whole of Kenya at least twice a week, okay? Because that's the sum total of really the promises they're making. But in the absence of that, I will also ensure that I resurrect the dead. But it has to be only on Thursdays and Fridays, okay? That's really the sum total of it. If they said the things they say, and instead of clapping, say, go away. We do not want to hear that nonsense. Tell us what can be done. Stop telling us fairy tales. Now, if that happened to a politician once or twice, apart from then claiming that his rivals had hired goons to heckle him, they would now think twice before coming, and as Eric correctly put it, to have the sheer gumption to actually come and tell us nonsense over and over and over again. There are things which if somebody says, this one can actually get done.
And why isn't that?
Some things are practical, some things you can clearly see. All right, so are you saying, you could say, I will do this, and then the results will end up being here. Some of those benefits would be that you have access to this. We have already an institution called the Kenya Mortgage Refinancing Corporation.
We do.
Established, okay? Where people are being encouraged to save for ownership of homes. Now, if Mutua was coming and talking about, I'm going to use this Kenya Mortgage Refinancing to do this, and the other, but saying, every person you get married, you get 500,000 shillings or 1 million shillings by the government free loan.
How are you going to do this?
What are you talking about?
But this is the thing, and a lot of questions come and say, I already have the how and my team is working on it. All right. But you know what it does is that when you're able to explain to somebody the mechanisms, the intricacies, how, do you know what that means? It means that you have an intimate understanding of this thing and you've actually taken it to heart. When you're able to tell somebody how, when you're able to go through each and every detail of what it exactly is that you're going to do, it means that truly you have taken it to heart and you really are ready to do something about it. But this blanket statement that is being given over and over again, it means that it really doesn't matter and that you're just throwing things at people hoping that they will gobble it up again. So indeed, I do believe that there needs to be pushback. There needs to be pushback because there's nobody who understands the problems that Kenyans go through better than Kenyans themselves. There's nobody who understands better the kind of alleviation that they want to see. There's nobody who understands better how different you want things to be. Now, not everybody is in a position to be at that place whereby now they can govern and lead and guide. But the few people who've been given that, Kenyans want to be sure that as you are getting into that position, you can actually do it. They'd rather not give it to you. And I think for too long, the assumption has been that people don't know what they want, that people don't know what they want looks like.
They don't know what they need.
They do.
They don't know what they
people
want.
People know what that thing looks like. I don't think people expect utopia, but people expect to be able to hobble along a little bit better than they did the previous. That if you are walking with a cane, hopefully now you can start to limp on one leg and then maybe you can get to 2. That's the desire. But I do agree that the pushback is insufficient, that the questioning is insufficient. That when people come in pomp and circumstance and tell you all these wonderful things, that there's no clap, there's no questioning.
We're all just sitting back there saying,
okay, thank you very much. Here's just another individual who's ready to give it to us.
Nitaweka 1 billion shillings, pesa ya serikali.
Now when you hear 1 billion, then you are very
huyu
happy.
mwananchi mdogo.
Meanwhile, somebody comes and tells you 1 billion today.
What do you mean?
And we're coming off the cuff of being in a debt that the country cannot even afford. That Kenyans today cannot afford Kenya. And here's somebody coming to tell you that they're going to throw hundreds of millions around. Even the simple question, not even the mechanics of how, the simple question of where is the money going to come from?
Let's take a break. 25 minutes after 8, we're having a conversation about all these promises that we are being given by the political leaders as they come and seek our votes. We had a conversation with Dorothy Kemunto, businesswoman who wants to be the next president of the Republic. We are now discussing the manifesto that was launched yesterday by the governor of Machakos County, Dr. Alfred Mutua, and also looking at what the other political leaders have been telling us across the country. William Ruto, Raila Odinga, Jimmy Wanjigi, and all the others who are going around the country, and the promises that they are making. Are they feasible?
My proposal is that employers in Kenya will pay the employees twice a month so that money can circulate. Money inazunguka, not once a month. Najua ukilipo once a month ni ngumu sana bana. Inaisha within 3 days. Lakini ukilipo mara mbili kwa mwezi unakula hepu unabakisha kidogo, kuna ingine inakuja. Uko sawa, sherehe kumaliza yote, unajipanga, school fees hapa, rent hapa, hivi, unaendelea, and money circulates. In this country today, in the middle of the month, there is no money. There is no money circulating. Money circulates only once a month. We need money to circulate all the time. That is economics of broadening the base. Only the rich in this country have money all the time. The poor have little money all the time.
I hope you don't believe that a hustler is a poor person. Hustler is a person who is making his a living through hard work.
The group of leaders we are having now, Kenyans, listen, the chemical composition is the same. You will mold them to ODM, then NASA, you mold them to Kanu, mold them to Jubilee, mold them to any other different color sometimes, but the chemical composition is the same.
It's not about me as Nurdin Haji, but it's about the constitution that I swore to protect. So when individuals attempt to hoard those powers and they want to be investigators and also prosecutors, then of course I have to defend that position because that position is in the constitution and that's what Kenyans wanted.
I'll tell you what happens is that when you ignore court orders, you're creating and quoting anarchy. Then you create a very dangerous precedent.
Story is told of the first president of the country who also went to visit Mathare, presidential tour. And of course, he went to this place and he introduced himself. So one of the enemies says, hata kuna jina kama yangu.
The Situation Room, Kenya's biggest conversation.
SpiceFM, Nyeri. "24/7 around the world, non-stop. This is SpiceFM.
This is something people need to understand. Your money, my money, equals our money. We cannot have your money is our money and my money is my money.
The only way to live your best life is to create a balance between
a bit of a drizzle in certain parts of Nairobi. Highs of 24 and lows of 15. Nakuru City is sunny at 15, highs of 26 and lows of 13. We'll look at lows of 12 in Nyeri, where it's cloudy at 17, going to highs of 23. In Mombasa, light rain at 27, highs of 31 and lows of 24. Malindi is sunny at 29, highs of 32 today. We're looking at 16 and sunny in Eldoret, highs of 24 and lows of 12, while Kisumu is sunny at 23 with highs of 30. We'll see lows of 19. In Kakamega, partly sunny conditions at 24, highs of 30 and lows of 15. And in Kampala, it's sunny at 21, highs of 28 and lows of 17. It's raining in Dar es Salaam at 26, highs of 31 and lows of 24. Johannesburg is rainy at 16, highs of 22 and lows of 14, while Lagos is clear at 27. We'll see a warm high of 34 and lows of 26. Cloudy conditions in Kinshasa at 24, highs of 30 and lows of 23.
Spice up your life.
We're still in traffic hour proper, and we see that Aerodrome Road coming off of Langata Road quite packed as trying to get onto Huru Highway this morning through into the city and out towards Westlands. Quite tight on Kenyatta Avenue and other parts of the CBD today. Haile Selassie then feeding off of Ngong Road is going to go all the way towards the Kamkunji roundabout. And then we have oncoming traffic from Jogo Road onto Landis and then out towards Kamkunji. So that entire circuit is jam-packed. Let's look at Westlands, where traffic started really early this morning. But not to forget, you can use the Red Hill Link Road to get you out of that mess. Kiambu Road is bumper to bumper in both directions. It's going to join at the Muthui Square coming off of Thika Superhighway, which is not so bad right now. We had a bit of an issue on North Airport Road today. We have traffic then spilling over from that whole Embakasi area, and that still continues a little bit into the east of the city. We're still in traffic hour this morning. It's been a crazy Monday. Certain parts of the roads are slippery, so please be extremely careful. And while you do that, talk to us on SpiceFM KE on Twitter. Text on 40127. Let's keep things moving this Monday morning.
So, City, earlier we were talking about internet connectivity, and you gave the statistics. What percentage? 80%?
85.2.
85.2% penetration of internet in the country.
Yes.
So, you have access to the internet across very many parts of this country. If you actually just subscribe to Showmax, it doesn't matter. You don't have to be in the house to have access to Showmax. Because you can actually watch Showmax from your mobile devices, from whatever devices that you think of, your mobile phone, your laptop, your PC, your tablet, your gaming console, your smart TV. So as long as you subscribe to Showmax, wherever you are, you just... And as people are traveling over the holidays, you're thinking, oh my God, I'm going to miss my favorite show. No, you have it wherever you go. Whether you're going on holiday or whether you're going to Shags.
You could go with your entertainment.
Go with your entertainment wherever you are. Showmax.com. Just log on to Showmax.com and see the packages. If you subscribe today, you get an extra 1 month free.
Sugar and spice and everything nice. SpiceFM.
Spice up your life. Mature, intelligent talk every morning. Spice up yourself.
It's 28 minutes to 9. This is Kenya's biggest conversation. So one more candidate threw their manifesto out there, and they said what they'd like to do if elected president. This was Dr. Alfred Mutua yesterday. Just adding on to what the others have already told us. So the others have not formally launched their manifestos. William Ruto hasn't. Raila Odinga hasn't. Actually hasn't even said whether he wants to be president for real or not. Who else? Reuben Kigame hasn't yet launched his manifesto.
Mudavadi?
Musalia Mudavadi hasn't. And the other members of Oka, they haven't. Kalonzo Musyoka hasn't. Jimmy Wanjigi, not yet. Professor Kivutha Kibwana, not yet.
You know, Eric,
they're all telling us, they're giving us an indication of what they'd like to do. Okay? William Ruto has talked about the bottom-up approach. He's talked about very many funds here and there, a fund being set up to support the micro and medium enterprises in the country, funds accessible to all of them. Raila Odinga has talked about the support of the vulnerable families in the country, 6,000 shillings every month. Jimmy Wanjigi has talked about Article 2040, I forget which article, but it's those ones of the basic rights, where you get to access the basic rights, what you want to do. All of them.
You know, they're talking around in circles, huh? Because if you look at some of the things that have been in the public domain and we've been discussing, like say the bottom-up approach or the universal basic income, which is really what that 6,000 shillings is all about. It is not that these things are not doable. Telling someone that there is a place called Mombasa that you will take them to, and you do not tell them which route to follow to get there quickly. One may approach it from very many different directions. One may even end up going in the completely opposite direction if they're not told exactly. I am waiting for a time when we will have politicians who are actually breaking it down. We were talking off air. There's one gentleman we had in the studio here, and he's the current senator for Nairobi. Mr.
Johnson Arthur.
Yes, Sakaja. Now, you listen to that man speak and he talks about the things he wants to do. There's clarity in his thought. He doesn't confuse the 10,000 things. He talks about one thing and he breaks it down. So you say, it's a road map. It's a road map. Clear road map. Now, when are these politicians, all of them, going to learn that the time for telling people about what you're going to do without a roadmap is really gone? These crowds you see are there for entertainment. They don't believe you. They don't even like you.
They're probably not going to
vote for you. Yeah. It's just that there is this hope that is born out of extreme poverty that some goodies may come their way, irrespective of the numbers that they have. Now, beyond that, if the politicians can't figure this out, who is the fool in this particular scenario? Who is the idiot?
I think it is about time that those who are contending for these positions, and oftentimes we want to give the attention just to the presidency, but I think it's about time that you look at whomever will be in a position of leadership at whatever level, then must have, as you say, clarity of thought, and must have an understanding of what the status quo is in the country. I think there's a removal from reality. Far removed from what the reality on the ground is. And I mean, even the other day when we talked about the state of a nation, what actually is the state of a nation vis-a-vis the state of the nation address that was given by the president? If those today who want to be in these positions of leadership, take it from your very basic unit of leadership until the very top, if you do not understand that which you've just said, if you do not understand that people are attending these rallies, not necessarily for what you want to say or the promises that you want to give them, but for something that they can get today, then if you don't realize that there's a problem, everybody can see it and they know. Why then do you think that Kenyans accept to be ferried in buses to come to rallies? Why? Because there's something that they can get at the end of the day, which they did not have at the beginning of the day. And by the time the sun sets on that particular day, that thing is finished. They're not thinking about whatever promises it is that you made to them because it's an exercise in futility for them. Who is the person that is going to be in touch with the situation on the ground, with actually the state of the nation, to see the things that are going wrong and is going to say, okay, guys, in my capacity as XYZ, this is what I can actually do. And this is what I promise. And this is what I say. And this is how I intend to do it. Void of that, we're wasting time, we're wasting energy, we're wasting resources. If you cannot practically come and say, with an understanding of what needs to be done and how it is going to be done, I think the tomfoolery that has been pulled over Kenyans is enough. It's enough. Because the suffering untold that people have gone through and are hoping that a leader would then come and deliver on that would-be salvation and then have been greeted with failure after failure and falling short of promises is enough. Kenyans understand that you're not coming to do anything for them differently. They know. And to think that they would believe something otherwise, I think is almost an insult. To come and continuously tell Kenyans these things, these lofty things, over and over again, you're insulting them.
Though, I see a silver lining, though, with all these things. That since, let's say, 2013, we have seen candidates coming and putting their promises on paper and on record. So you can use that then to go back and say, this is what you promised to do. If we gave you the vote, have you delivered on any of them? Unlike previously, where promises were just on political rallies, or nitajenga barabara, nitajenga mashule, tutaongeza hospitali, and then they go, and nothing is on record. This time when you see manifestos being launched, it's a good thing. We can look back into the Uhuru Manifesto of 2013, the Uhuru Manifesto of 2017, and ask ourselves, so these are the things that they had promised to do. And this is the picture, the rosy picture that they had painted of the country. How do we rate them, their performance? So by 2017, you could look and say, all right, so you promised to do this, 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 and the other. And none of them were you saying, if you elect me for 2 terms. You only said, if you elect us into office, we will do this. If you're promising things that will come to fruition in 30 years' time, now that is you. We understand that you wanted us to give you the presidency so you can deliver this. Okay? So we have it on record. Now we have it on record on what they promised to do in 2017. We have it on record what Governor Alfred Mutua would like to do if he became president. We have it on record what he wanted to do when he joined to become governor. So we have something against which to judge. And I think that's a beautiful thing. Now look back at the number of things that they come and say that they are going to do. And that's why I think they come and add so many other things. It become too theoretical. It becomes impractical. So when you look back, you're actually confused between, okay, so what did Uhuru promise? Uhuru, Ruto, Ngilu, and Balala. What did they promise in 2013? They promised umoja, uwazi, whatever. So in all those things, what have they actually been able to achieve? And why did they flop? Which is why I keep saying that when the president is making his State of the Nation address, he should be basing it first on his manifesto. I pledged to do this. I have moved here. I have been unable to move because of this, and the other. And I'd like this honorable house to help me with policy, with laws, with regulations, to help me move to the next step. If you don't do that, then you're lying to us. But we sit back and we just, wow. What was the promise that he made? This country, there's a lot of connectivity to electricity. What was the promise? By how much had they pledged to have electricity connectivity countrywide? By how many new kilometers of roads had they pledged to advance the country? What had they said they were going to do? If you came and told me that I'm going to move you from here to Mombasa, and then you abandon me in Mtito one day.
You're not in Mombasa.
I'm not in Mombasa. So, like,
this distance is short. You can walk.
Nairobi, bwana. You're in Mutito. Hapo unaweza omba lift.
You're right, Eric. Because the reason you left Nairobi was to go to Mombasa, not Mtito one day.
The only reason I left is because you told me.
I boarded your bus because you told me this bus is going to Mombasa.
Had you not told me that it would be, I would not have gotten on the bus. And this is the thing. That we're making these half-baked promises are being made. And that's the thing. That when you make the promise and then you don't fulfill, it's one of two things. You were not able or you never intended to in the first place. You were just trying to capture my attention so that I would get on the bus. Then you go doing your other things. Then now from Tito, wherever you are going, I don't know. But you've left me standing there with my head in my hands. That's it. So it's one thing, you lied to me or you had no intention in the very beginning. You had no capacity to do it in the first place, but you wanted the limelight for that time. And this is what I'm saying right now. The person who can explain to you how is the one that has intimate knowledge and an intimate desire to get this thing done. Everybody who's just reading off a list and saying these things which are looking shiny like a new toy for a kid and telling you and listing one after the other and saying all these because guess what? When those promises, it's nice to hear. I'm already imagining a swimming pool in every county, for crying out loud. You hear it and you're thinking, oh, nice. It can be something that can be a recreational activity for young people in there, young and old in every county. So you think about it and you say, absolutely nice. Now, how much more wonderful would it be if it actually came to fruition? It's something that you could see. So something like that does not happen, then you can hold this person to account. But then what are the mechanisms for holding people into account? Social contracts, things like that. Do they exist? No. So even till now, anybody can just say whatever it is that they want, and it will just go like that.
But you tell me, even if you had
you don't have a how. then we might as well say that you are not intending to do it.
Given what we end up having as leaders when they are elected, see, it's like when politicians, wannabe, would-be politicians speak, they are one creature. They actually get to the position that they sought, they become a different creature. Why am I saying this? The reason why most people vote for these people, because they'll tell you, but they know the person is an honest person, they'll even tell you about the things the person has done. Then they become the Mheshimiwa, and then we see this Jekyll and Hyde situation. But even if we had a social contract right now, when the Mheshimiwa is in the seat, what makes you think that they even give a flying hoot whether they have a social contract or not? What is it in the attitude that we've seen from those who actually sit in those positions? Do they even actually think that it's important for them to actually keep their word?
They don't.
Yes.
They don't.
And that's why my argument is because we encourage them to be that way. Okay? So yes, City Muga has come because City Muga ni mzee wa kijiji here in Tamu. We know Muga very well. He has done a lot. In fact, he's the chairman of our local school. He's a good man. So City Muga does not come to tell you, I'm chairman of the local school. He comes and starts telling us, sugar. Tumeacha kukuza miwa. No, we are going to go back into growing sugarcane and we will be taking sugarcane.
And we'll be giving you loans of 100,000, all of you.
All of you. People are not going to be interrogating what City is saying about sugar and sugarcane and sugar production and the practicality of it. They'll be like, but City is a good man.
We know him.
We know him. So we haven't internalized what City is promising. It sounds good. I mean, it sounds like City can move us from here. He can be giving us loans, blah, 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 blah. But we are not really, really committed to it. That's why we are not able to go back and say, but City, you said, where are the loans? Because we didn't
even really think about it at the point that it was being presented and say, hold on a minute, what actually is being said here? In the last 4 months, the things that have been doled out to Kenyans so that you can even start to think about what's going to happen next year, will you be able to count? If we did a list now here from the 10 things that one person said to the next, to all those people who will be going to school for free, to 24-hour economy, to hundreds of millions different from the CDF, to those who will go to school on grant basis and not have to pay school fees anymore, to the swimming pools, to 100 if we could go till 10 o'clock and we'll be listing the things that we've already been told. How many have actually sat down and said, hold on a minute, what exactly are we being told here? What exactly are we being told here? So, a population is being fed this promise by a few individuals and is being held captive by this promise. And you're not asking questions as to, wait, in terms of practicality, how exactly do you intend to do it? How do you intend to do it? And I'm going to say it until I'm blue in the face if it's possible. Melanin will not allow. If the person cannot tell you how they're going to do it, trust me, either they don't intend to do it, they know very well they don't have the capacity, or they're lying to you. And it's about time you start asking the questions. And it is all right to say, you know what? Until I hear from the person who is really, really, it's okay. Let's not even do election. Because remember, Ambassador Koki told us, and Eric had, it's okay to say none of the above because this person is not actually fulfilling the expectation that we have. And it's about time that this populace over whom these promises are lauded over has a dog in the game. It's about time you say, you know what? It's us you're coming to tell these things. It is us who is giving you the vote. Give us the truth. Tell us the truth. We have more at stake in this game. Tell us the truth. Tell people what you actually can do.
What you can
be
do.
Honest.
And also just give us, timelines, milestones.
Don't tell us in the next 100 days you get rid of corruption. You get rid of corruption in 100 days. This thing that has been eating the country like a cancer for the last however long. What miracle Houdini moves are you going to pull and say you're going to bring this about? Practical. Be practical. Stop all this. People are not listening anymore. They'll eat what they can eat on that day. But guess what? Tomorrow they've forgotten about what it is that you've said. Now, Kenyans, get rid of the goldfish mentality. Don't be here today and then tomorrow somebody comes and tells you something else and you gobble it up. Go to manifesto launch, hear this one. Go to manifesto launch, hear the other one. Come on.
You know, what would happen if we developed a culture where we actually tell our leaders off in public?
It would be a very good place. It would be a very good place to be.
Why do you say that, Eric?
Because then we'll have honest conversations. This is where we start holding you accountable for everything, for your deeds and for your words. Where you come in and tell us this, and the other. The next time you come, we've already given you the opportunity. You come back to us. Now we are questioning and looking at what is it that you said you would do. I'm looking at the 2013 manifesto of Uhuru, because they're the ones who got into office, all right? And I've looked at it. It's 72 pages of it. There's some things that you can see here that they promised to do that have happened. Now, you look back and ask yourself, is it as a result of what they have done in government, or is it as a result of what had already started that actually came to fruition during their term? Some things started, some things have continued. For example, ICT, digital takeoff. They promised to increase human resource capacity in ICT through improved ICT education in schools and training for teachers. They promised to expand the fiber optic network to cover hospitals, schools, police stations. To establish a universal single registration system activated at birth, which will streamline registration, national ID registration, voter registration, NHIF, NSSF, any other tax or commercial related registration. Some of these things that I'm reading, you can see them. They've happened, right? Even though there have been others like this one I've just read. It's a Huduma number, stopped by the courts, but they initiated it. In others, you look at and you wonder, okay, so you talked about very lofty things. Have you actually been able to deliver? For us to be able to sit back here and say, but Uhuru has failed, but Uhuru has succeeded, we need to understand what Uhuru promised, what we agreed to, and why we voted for him. Okay? Not necessarily why we voted for him, but why he became president, why he was voted for by the majority. He's become president. Once he has become president, understand the manifesto. What did this man promise? Every year, give us a progress report of your manifesto. Don't give us other stories. It's a progress report of your manifesto. I pledged to do this and that in infrastructure. I pledged to do this and that on education, on healthcare, on this, on the other. This is where we are. So we can all judge and say, you're moving in the right direction, or this thing that you're doing is off the rails. Until we do that, as Kenyans, we are all just sitting back here. We'll be told manifesto. They'll come in and they'll say, this is what I promise to do. You need to be paid twice a month, so that money is circulating throughout the month. We need to have a 24-hour economy. We need to have 1 billion shillings in a fund somewhere so that people can access it. We need to have a revamped youth fund. We need to have the students getting some holiday before they start repaying their HELB loans. You don't even remember what was promised.
You yourself, the person themselves who made the promise. The person themselves who made the promise probably is not even aware of the many things that they
forget
said.
even made the promise and come and make it again.
This is it.
Stadia.
And that's the assumption.
Stadia.
Right.
That one. Okay, now.
Now, do you see why I was calling it an insult? Because there's the assumption that, all right, they've probably also forgotten. So let's not even bother. Let's just move on to the next thing.
Why are you suggesting that they even think along those lines? Because to think that the public would actually forget means they think along those lines. I am of the view they actually don't. I'm of the view that they take the public not just for granted, but they consider them as being next to nothing. Because let's just give a perfect example. If somebody came to you, somebody you know, or somebody you expect to be somebody who's honorable and in a position of respect, came to you today and told you, you know very well that I am the person who is in charge of schools in this area here, okay? And this is the budget that we have. Now, I know there's a problem with this and this school and the numbers, and I will do it. and this is the budget, and we will do it. A year goes by, nothing has been done. They come back again and tell you the same thing. Nothing has been done. They come back again the third time and tell you the same thing hasn't been done. Now, you tell me, that is at a level where you talk about community. What if they came to you as an individual? When somebody makes you a promise and doesn't keep it, you may ask the question, what is happening? Why is this person having a problem? This isn't a promise that is being made to an individual. This is a promise that is being made to people who need to see the things that are being said done.
Yes.
Because it's important for them.
Yes.
And repeatedly it is not done. What choice do you have in understanding what that person thinks of these people? Because conversely, there are people to whom they make promises and they keep.
Yep. By the way, you're right. I think I agree with you here. The audience for what the politicians tell us is not the people. It is each other.
Yes.
The audience that Dr. Mutua was addressing yesterday may not necessarily be every voter.
No.
It's a certain group of people. Look at my ideas.
Look what I've come up with.
Look at my ideas. When Ruto, Raila, the others will launch their manifesto, the audience will not be the people who will be in that huge dome tent.
No.
The audience will be somebody else.
Precisely.
And it's not about holding me accountable. It's see
and
Eric,
see
the kind of ideas I have.
The unfortunate thing is when people talk about promises in this country, what is heard is completely different. And the communication, it's a dog whistle conversation. If I am going to build more roads, immediately, who will get the contract?
Yes.
Who will do what? That is the conversation. So that people who hear say, so I have an opportunity. Not that people will benefit. No.
Money will go into construction of roads. Money will go into accessing this free money, 1 billion shillings in the name of youth and small businesses.
Money will be put aside.
There'll be money.
Yes, that's it. Now the details will be another matter.
Yes.
Every time we've had money put aside, we're talking about youth fund. We have a youth fund.
Yes. We have an Uwezo fund.
We've saw money being put into that money.
Who's coming to tell you that this is what we had and it wasn't working really well? We intend to make it work. We intend to make it better, not reinvent the wheel. This thing wasn't broke. Who's coming to tell you that we're going to actually fix it and make sure that this thing is working in the way in which was intended to work in the first place? Nobody's coming to tell you that. Everybody's coming to tell you about we're going to do this thing that was here, we're going to do away with it and come up with a new one. Meanwhile, you have something that's operating without an issue.
This conversation continues on SpiceFM into the next hour. We have been live on KTN Home for the last 1 hour. Thank you very much to our audience on TV. Join us on radio, 94.4 in Nairobi, 87.9 in Mombasa. Nakuru is 96.0, Nakuru City. Eldoret, 96.7, 90.9 in Nyeri, 97.7 in Malindi, and Kisumu, 102.5. Dr. Alfred Mutua said, do not go and copy my ideas.
You know, and I'm asking our leaders, most of our leaders, and teleprompter can push it up. I'm asking our leaders who are running for president, like me, to do like what I've done, to be original and not to just copy. So encourage other presidential candidates and political parties not to copy this manifesto and start presenting it as their own, but to come up with original ideas. There's been a tendency whereby when I and Maendeleo Chap come up with concepts, slogans, and original ideas, just for them to be hijacked and used by others, as if they're the ones who came up with them. I urge media players, tafadhali, monitor these copycats and expose them for who they are, as empty, boring, tired politicians with nothing to offer. Wanategea tu, wanategea wakopi. Tafadhali, my friends.
That's it. The message was to the other.
Don't copy me.
Yes.
Everything that he had presented before was not for you. It was for that other audience.
In short, stop commenting.
It's for those others. Remember, I'm the one who said this first. We've seen it, of course. We've seen politicians will pick other people's slogans, other people's ideas and run with them. Okay. So that's where the issue is. Who is promising to deliver this better?
You know, one of the things, Eric, that tells you that we have a leadership that is really far gone, is the moment you have a situation where the plight of the nation The very thing that is at the essence of the so-called the heartbeat of the mwananchi and the nation, you constantly see it being talked about, but it's never addressed.
Right.
And yet, against that backdrop of it not being addressed, you find things passing through parliament, things being done that enable the lives of those who already have to just get better and better and better and better. Why are we having a discussion about house allowances that were not supposed to be given that were given? Why are we having that discussion? And then at the same time, we're having discussions about young men and young women who actually worked and did some work, and you're suddenly being told there's no money to give them. And yet, these fellows are being asked to refund the money, which means they were paid.
Yes.
How do you have such a discussion? And those young people don't have alternative employment.
No, they don't.
No.
That's it.
It's the same one. Conversation continues in the next hour. Keep it right here. Good morning. It's 9 a.m.
Spice up your life. The latest news from around the world. 94.4 Spice FM.
This is Newswire. I'm Dennis Aseto. The Council of the Law Society of Kenya has called on authorities to launch an investigation into the murder of lawyer Boaz Nyakeri, who was killed on Saturday. Reports indicate that Nyakeri was stabbed by unknown persons near Masai Lodge in Rongai. In a statement, LSK Chief Executive Officer Mercy Wambua said the responsibility placed on advocates as court officials and human rights defenders placed them at a relatively high risk of possible attacks by adversaries. She said that the assailants, who seemed to have been trailing him, stabbed him on the neck but did not steal anything from him, leaving a lot of questions as to the motive behind the attack. She now wants the government to put in place strategies to ensure that advocates, magistrates, judges as well as court officials are provided with adequate security and protection from any form of harm, threats, intimidation and attacks that may arise as a result of the nature of their work. Now, 3 students have been arrested in connection with the latest Miranda school fire. The fire razed the school's 630 capacity dormitory in a daring incident that occurred at 10 a.m. yesterday. Miranda High School has since been closed indefinitely. Bondo Deputy County Commissioner Richard Karani said an investigation has been launched. David Mwendwa Mutiambai, son to Inspector General of Police Hilary Mutiambai, is likely to be charged with 2 counts of causing death by dangerous driving following an accident that occurred Thursday in Nairobi. David was driving the 4-wheeled drive car that was involved in the accident. Mwendwa is also likely to be charged with causing serious injuries to a pedestrian following the accident. He is out on 20,000 shillings cash bail as police investigate the incident along Southern Bypass in Nairobi. An argument between 2 brothers turned fatal after one of the feuding siblings shot a neighbor who had come to separate them with an arrow in Kipchumo, Marakwet East. According to the Directorate of Criminal Investigations, Joel Kiptum Kipkore and Onesimus Kemboy Kipkore were engaged in a heated argument over a family debt of 1 cow when suddenly Onesimus picked a bow and arrow and aimed the arrow at his elder brother. He unfortunately missed his target and the arrow went for Edwin Kibord's left leg, a neighbor who had come to separate the two. Kibord was immediately rushed to Endo Mission Hospital where he unfortunately succumbed to the injury. Police have impounded bang with an estimated street value of 6 million shillings at a private home in Old Kalau town. Nyandarua Central Sub-County Police Commander Dahir Mohammed said the drugs was on transit from Nakuru to Mombasa when police officers intercepted it along the Old Kalau Njambini Road, prompting the suspects to speed off. Dahir, who noted that one suspect was later arrested while trying to escape on foot, said that the bang was being ferried in a Toyota Wish and had been stacked in sacks. The suspect will be arraigned in court today. Orange Democratic Party women political leaders and women grassroots leaders gathered from all the 30 wards in Mombasa County and launched county tours to popularize their activities. The women made the announcements during the launch of ODM Women League Mombasa chapter dubbed Warembo na Raila in Mombasa. The ODM Brigade launched the laid down strategies on how to revive the movement and rally for more women to join their political wagon through popularization of the ODM party at the grassroots level and at the same time recruiting more women in their ODM brigade. And China's top diplomat in Nairobi has denied reports indicating Beijing has cut its financing to Kenya and Africa as a whole. Chinese ambassador to Kenya, Zhu Binjian, says the claims are misleading given that the finances being extended to the continent are increasing. Ambassador Zhu was responding to widespread reports that the Asian economic giant had cut down investment pledges from $60 billion announced in 2018 to $40 billion at the recently concluded Forum on China-Africa Cooperation Ministerial meeting held in Dakar, Senegal. According to Zhu, the financial arrangements that will support the 9 programs to be pursued by China and Africa over the next 3 years are in fact more than $60 billion announced in Beijing. And a man has been arrested for alleged bestiality on his in-law's calf in Kamanamsin in Litein, Kericho County. The 31-year-old was caught in an unnatural act with a calf by the owner, who raised alarm attracting fellow villagers. According to police report, the owner had gone to check up on her calf after she was awakened by her groaning at around 5 a.m. when the intrigued woman was shocked to discover that it was her brother-in-law who had committed the abdominal act. This is Newswire. I'm Dennis Asseto.
All right, we're looking at traffic still on Uhuru Highway this morning, going in and out of the city, very, very slow. Where there are roundabouts, there will be traffic today. Also, what looked like it was getting to be a better situation on North Airport Road, then spilling over towards Pipeline Railway Stop, there is some in and outbound traffic there as well. Mombasa Road coming from Sabaki, now not looking too bad, looking a little bit better as you go towards the SGR, and that has reduced quite significantly. Where is it still looking tricky? On Langata Road today, also on Gong Road. Raila Odinga Way, not giving way this morning, very, very slow as you get towards the City Mortuary roundabout. All right, let's look at Westlands. Red Hill Link Road is still going to offer you some good this morning. You might want to use that. Muranga Road getting into the city coming off of Thika Superhighway, where, by the way, Kiambu Road traffic has come almost to a stop. Stop meaning it's over, not traffic stop. Okay, so the Thika Superhighway, also quite some traffic there, still continues. We'll keep an eye on things. We'll take a look in about half an hour and hopefully should be out of traffic hour by then. Talk to us on SpiceFM KE on Twitter, text 40127.
This is The Situation Room, the home of hard-hitting political commentary and penetrating insights about the state of the nation. This is a talk radio experience like no other. The Situation Room, a place for hard truths, debates, and elevated conversations. The Situation Room, witty, political, engaging, deep, controversial. In the room, we have C.T. Muga, researcher, academic, seasoned political observer, a fountain of wisdom in these politically uncertain times. Ndu Okoh, Nigerian by birth, Kenyan by choice, communications expert, Pan-Africanist, a truth seeker and believer in people power, and Eric Latiff, agent provocateur, the man in the chair, seasoned journalist, news hound, a man who believes in punching up, not down. This is The Situation
It's 7
Room,
minutes after 9.
the only way to...
Kenya's biggest conversation, and CT has the biggest proverb.
Siku njema huonekana asubuhi.
Explain.
Asubuhi here means morning. A good day, literally, the literal meaning is a good day is known in the morning. And morning here doesn't mean literally early in the morning. It means the start of the day, the start of something, as you correctly put it earlier on, the start of a season. Now, we have with us the silly season of politics. And you know bright and early what the season portends just by what is happening. One, the campaigns began well ahead of what is known to be the legal framework within which all these activities should take place. That's number one. Number two, it went against everything that was known at the time in terms of safety measures that were to be taken, given that we're in a COVID situation. Okay? And that has continued, even against a backdrop of the government having curfew, the government ensuring and dictating that people shouldn't meet beyond certain numbers. The huge numbers that we've seen in rallies have gone on. So the sum total of it is that very early in the morning, the would-be leaders have shown you with clarity that they have no regard for government dictates. They have no regard for the rule of law with regards to the safety, health safety of other individuals in the country. And so, if this is what you're being told now, early in the morning, what do you think you're going to expect in the evening?
Indeed.
In the sunset days of this particular season, when elections are held and people actually get into offices, what do you think you are going to expect?
Nothing much, right?
You are going to expect that your life will be mismanaged. If it's being mismanaged now, and these are people who are aspiring to have positions, what do you think they will do when they actually get those positions?
Expect it to be worse.
Speaking of managing and mismanaging, so something happened along River Enzio on Saturday. And as people were watching, it actually was unfolding. It rains, there's a river, it floods, there are people who need to cross over to the other side, and they find that the river is flooded and the waters have topped the bridge, and you don't even know the level of the bridge anymore. And this unfortunate incident takes place where people who are heading for a wedding in a school bus get onto the bus and they attempt to cross the river. And then what happened?
Disaster.
25 bodies so far retrieved from this river Enzio. Disaster. Many of them family members. Somebody who was just carrying a small baby and they died with their baby. Others were just basically, these are the bodies that have been recovered. That there are more that have not been recovered. More people have died. When you look at this and you see, okay, so a number of things. Oh yes, the driver. Well, the driver, you should know if the river is like this, know when to cross, when not to cross. City, if you look at the footage, the other issue of the bridge, and if you look at the footage from River Enzio, the height of the bridge, the width of the river, and the expected flash floods in this particular region, I still have got to question whether that is the right bridge for that section of the road.
It is a correct question because rivers do get flooded, and we know this, especially they even overflow through bridges. But usually you'll find there's a clear demarcation of the boundary of that particular bridge.
Yes.
Do we see that here?
And by the time a river is topping a bridge, that is a lot of water.
No, it's a great deal of water to the point, and I'm asking
what
the question.
We see here in River Enzio is that people who are walking, who are trying to rescue those that had drowned in the river, their height and the level of the bridge is the same. And they're stepping on the banks of the river or the bottom of the river. That means the height of that particular bridge. I've got questions to ask on that.
It's an old bridge, and it hasn't taken into account the ravaging effects of nature over time. But since the bridge itself has remained steady, it hasn't eroded to the point of collapsing, it's a bridge.
Yes.
So it was assumed that the bridge will continue functioning as it should, where perhaps the bridge had required an upgrade a long time ago.
Yes. This bridge needed to be raised.
Yes.
Understand the level of water that flows here when at its highest point. Raise the bridge.
You know, that the bridge was built in the first place meant there was an understanding that this safety measure was necessary.
Yes.
Okay? Now, if it was necessary then and time has changed, who is it who is responsible for ensuring that it still seeks to meet the need that it was purposed for? And in so doing, if it doesn't, who then is responsible for ensuring that it is rectified so that it meets the needs? Because all those things were clearly not done.
Sure. I think the question also comes up that then is disaster avoidable, right? That if all the pieces had come together properly, and then we have, proper erection of some of these things that are needed, and then proper maintenance over time. Looking at patterns in the way in which things have changed, you know very well that the weather has changed, patterns have changed over time. you have more flooding that maybe you did at the time that this particular bridge was built, or just anything around the country, that things definitely have changed. So are we essentially saying that if these things are being put in place, and if the maintenance of such things occurred, then disaster such as this then is avoidable? Or are we saying that we're then left to the whims of the forces of nature and there's nothing that we can do about it? Because it seems as though we are saying now that, you know what, if this bridge had been, raised, if these things had been taken into consideration, then such things could be avoided. That even if you do have changing weather patterns, even if though you know that the warning of flash floods and things like that happen, then things like this would be avoided, would be sorted. Further than that, if there was an active and working disaster management policy in the country, that would then cater for a lot of these things, because it would take into consideration, and it seems like a lot, but every place or stop where there's something like this with a potential danger then would be taken into consideration and said, you know what, here needs to be fixed, bridge here needs to be raised, taking into consideration changing weather patterns, taking into consideration overuse, taking into consideration maintenance. That if we had a handle on things, then some of these things would be avoidable.
Yeah.
Because to see the painful way in which death occurred here over the weekend, and to think that something could be done about it, even for future, then it's a bit scary if that there's nothing in place to make sure that some of these things are maintained or refurbished or rehabilitated. No policy exists.
You don't have a Ministry of Public Works or a Ministry of Roads just for the fun of it. You don't have a Ministry of Housing just for the fun of it. You also don't have the Ministry of Health just for the fun of it.
Sorry, but Siti, just before you go on, so then the question is, do we blame the lack of an existent policy? Do we blame the lack of taking some of these changing things into consideration? Or do you blame the person who took the decision to go into this water body not knowing the danger that lay therein?
Could be all of them, but for the people, there's help that they needed. Look, how many disasters have we had in this country? We've had very many disasters, from flooding from El Nino, from buildings collapsing, from fires. We see fires in dormitories, fires in buildings, in residential buildings, we see all these disasters all the time. And the conversation around management of disaster got in earnest at some point when the government established a multi-sectoral task force or team to deal with handle disasters. They brought in the police, they brought in the military and people, and they were domiciled in the Interior Ministry. And then when you started now seeing buildings collapsing in Nairobi, there was some semblance of some order, which also brought in the Red Cross. But it operated outside of a national policy on this. In May 2018, the cabinet approved a national disaster risk management policy. The cabinet approved it. Now what we needed to do was what? Create the bodies to manage it. A disaster risk management authority. There have been bills and bills and bills before Parliament. Currently, in 2021, there's a bill before the Senate on the establishment of an authority to manage our disasters. So many years down the road, it's so easy for us to start a process and to take it to public participation and even attempt to take it to a referendum. But on an issue of disaster, where we're talking about saving lives, because that's what this is all about, saving lives and sustaining livelihoods, we have been a back and forth. 7 years of the Uhuru administration, and the talk has just been on how we can handle our disasters. Cabinet approves that a policy. There is no bill that has been passed by Parliament to establish an authority or body to manage our disasters. Today, what we are seeing happening at River Enzio is mobilization of NYS, bring your equipment. So yes, they have got all this heavy machinery. Bring your heavy machinery. Military, come in and see what kind of assistance you can give us. Local county government, what do you have? Do you have anything? You have morgues. Okay, we shall use your morgues. What vehicles shall we use to transport the bodies that we pick from here? That's all we are doing. It's dealing with it after the fact. How many hours did it take to mobilize the NYS to get here? Well, we know that the NYS is in, what's that place called where you worked?
Dala.
In Yatta. Okay,
Matu.
no. In before Matu, right? In Yatta, there's the NYS place in Yatta. So maybe it didn't take them very long to get from Yatta to get to past Mwingi at River Enzio. But is there a coordinated thinking about what happens where? This is what we are lacking in the country. And we keep looking at this. We see buildings collapsing. We see fires in schools. We see floods affecting people, displacing people. We see landslides and mudslides. We saw in West Pokot, people died. The military had to come in and try and go to a certain point. They said, "Sasa wale wajapatikana, wacha tuachie tu hapo." We don't have any coordinating body on this. This is our failure as a country.
And so now, isn't it a little bit scarier, Eric, that we're looking into the future? If you look into your crystal ball and say, woe unto us, if there is another disaster, you're not going to have any idea how you're going to figure it out. That it is going to be a mess bigger than the disaster itself when it then comes to saving human life.
Yes.
So why is there no urgency then when it comes to putting something like this in place? That all the bodies that would be required, whether it is NYS, whether it is
the military, the
police, the healthcare service,
Kenya Red Cross, St. John's Ambulance, the
everybody,
local ambulance services by the county government, everybody knows
what they ought to be doing
and the signal that they receive. Who sounds the signal, for example, and mobilizes NYS, mobilizes the military, mobilizes the county ambulance services, mobilizes the private ambulance services? Who calls the signal? Who coordinates this? It's everybody just, ati kuna nini? Tuma ambulance mbili. Ati kuna nini? Tuma tractor. We have no coordination.
So what you do is a prayer and hope that the disaster will not be too terrible.
These are the things that we are facing. When we talk about the state of the nation, these are some of the things. They may be soft, but they are not soft. When you see 23 people died there in that river, okay. We're talking about so many days later.
They've not gotten everybody.
People have not all bodies have been recovered. What are we talking about?
You know, there's something that happened in Mombasa in 1994. It's called Mtongwe.
Yep.
Now, the reason Mtongwe is well known, it's where the naval base in this country is. Okay, we have another base now in Lamu, Manda, but the base that we know of for the longest time was in Mtongwe. And there's a ferry crossing from the island to the mainland. Mtongwe is mainland, Mombasa, island. And that ferry on that particular day had 400 people. It sank 40 meters from land.
Yeah.
272 people died. There are those who say it was overloaded. Now, for it to have been overloaded on that particular day, it wasn't the first day it was being overloaded. People were used to it being overloaded. And it was an old ferry. What often happened is, some of the ferries that were used in previous years to cross the Likoni Channel, when they get a little older, they were taken to Mtongwe because the traffic to Mtongwe was significantly less. Okay. Now, next to the what? Navy. Navy has divers, Navy has facilities.
Yep.
Okay. They are the experts in this. Navy, water. Yet people died. And it wasn't that the Navy didn't try, or that people who are involved in diving and people for whom that was their profession didn't try. It is because of the same thing that Eric is talking about, preparedness. Because preparedness means you coordinate it. Preparedness means you anticipate it, so you know exactly what to do should it happen. You do this and this and this and this and this in order.
Within the shortest time possible.
Yes. So that lives can be saved. When you look at this current problem that we're talking about, I mean, there are clips that show you exactly what happened. The bus was near the end, getting to the end of the bridge, and it tipped and it capsized.
Yep.
Meaning, somewhere along the line, it should have turned maybe to the right, didn't, and it missed. It means that bridge had not been adequately repaired and maintained.
Yep.
Because that shouldn't happen. More importantly, There are no barriers on the side of that bridge to show you the width end of that bridge.
Right.
Meaning, you have to. It's a hit and miss situation. Somebody has to more or less walk in the middle.
You don't know where the bridge
You
is.
don't know.
Where it starts or where it
No,
stops.
no, you don't.
You guys, looking at this thing, this is more multi-pronged than we're actually looking at here, because we're looking at it now at the point of disaster, which as terrible as it sounds, that we're looking at it when it's all already done. There's really little you could have done about it. By that time, that bus was tipping over and then was submerged. There's little you could have done. But then this is what we are saying, that there's a lot that could have been done that would have averted this crisis, that would have averted this disaster. That if everybody who is involved in a process of maintenance, of erection of a bridge like this is doing their job, taking all things into consideration, you would not have this problem. Because many could argue, all right, so the bus has tipped over. In terms of calling people who are going to come and be able to help and save and rescue, there's also the time factor, because this is not in the middle of your urban area, for example. It would take some time before they would be able to get there and then start the rescue operation. But what if you had a situation whereby the bridge was clearly demarcated, that there was something that would be able to hold up in terms of both sides, that you would be able to see where the bridge started and where it stopped.
Right.
That you would be able to say, okay, this is road with or without water, this is road, there are markers here, don't do. That when the flooding started, that even if there was no realization that this thing was going to be submerged, that there were adequate road markers to show, here is bridge. That those would have been, so the coordination before a disaster, to me, is more important than any rescue that would have been done later. Much more important. And you want to look at it across board, by the way. Look at any sector. Proper plans in place to avoid the education disasters that we saw when schools started to collapse. Proper infrastructure being put in place so that buildings are not collapsing around the country. Proper infrastructure in place so we say that health, we're going to be curative, we're going to be preventative instead of curative. Because by the time we're getting to the curative state, there's very little that you can actually do. But there's much more that you can do before the disaster happens. And I think that's where the focus needs to be. What is being done before the disaster happens? Because a lot of these things, unfortunately, as bad as you don't want to hear it if you lost a loved one, that a lot of the saving would have been done before the disaster.
That's why I started by asking the question about the bridge.
You are ugly.
Because this bridge, is it a bridge that completely takes into consideration? If you look at the width of this river, okay, so you can clearly see there's a part where the river is, and then there are parts where the river floods.
And this river is not a small river.
This is a very wide river, and it's because it carries flash floods from other parts, brings them here. Now, is this a bridge that ought to be in this particular section? Like what you're asking, should it have guardrails?
Yes.
Should it be clear?
And should even people have been allowed to cross this bridge using vehicles?
At some point, should this even be allowed? Should there be some coordination that says, okay, no, at this point, this road is closed. There has to be a way in which we have thought and said, people who are going to know from Wengi, if it rains, how do they go to Nu? Because it's not just serving a small village, it's actually serving a huge, vast part.
So what happens in other areas where Met has told us that there's going to be expect heavy rains and such and flash floods, etc., etc. What happens where you have today a dilapidated bridge? What happens where today there's a road that was kind of there and people are still using it, just kind of managing as you go along? What happens today that those people are looking and saying, hold on a minute, I'm going to be passing such a place on a regular basis. In fact, I've just crossed over and it has not happened. So you hope and pray that nothing happens. What happens whereby there's a warning signal, unfortunately, with the loss of lives that has been shot around the country saying, you know what, guys, we're in a situation whereby things could actually go bad. What's happening? Are we sitting around twiddling our thumbs and hoping that it doesn't happen?
We're just watching social media videos and they're coming thick and fast. You can see them. People attempting to cross here and there because they have got to cross. Okay? And that's where the coordination comes in. If we had a body whose mandate is to look at possible disaster risk areas, map them, and whenever it comes out like, okay, so this is a disaster risk area because of fires. It's dry season. There's likelihood to be a fire. So what do we do? How shall we prepare? How shall we avoid disaster? It's rainy season. There's likely to be landslides. What do we do? How do we prepare ahead? It's rainy season, likelihood of mudslides. Rainy season, likelihood of rivers stopping bridges. What do we do? How do we prepare? How do we avoid loss of lives? There's none of that. We all just sit back there and wait. Okay, so disaster has happened, bring in the military. They are coming in to help us. Let's open up the phone lines and join the conversation. We have a disaster risk management policy. We have some bill that has gone through the National Assembly. It's now a bill is in the Senate. I'm not sure whether this is one after the other or these are just separate bills, because the National Assembly one was 2017, the 2021 bill before the Senate have different names, so I'm not sure that they're the same bill. But we basically just don't have a coordination of disaster management in this country. What ails Kenya? 29 minutes after 9. Time for us to take a quick break. Let's take a look at the weather and the traffic.
This is the Situation Room, the only way to start your day. Spice up. "24/7 around the world, non-stop. This is SpiceFM.
This is something people need to understand. Your money, my money, equals our money. We cannot have your money is our money and my money is my money.
The only way to live your best life is to create a balance between work, love, and play. The Adults in the Room is the only show on radio dedicated to educating Kenyans on how they can stay winning in life and in love. Text the word adult to 22840 to get the latest clips from Adults in the Room directly to your mobile phone. SMS adults to 22840.
I hope you don't believe that a hustler is a poor person. Hustler is a person who is making his a living through hard work.
The group of leaders we are having now, Kenyans, listen, the chemical composition is the same. You will mold them to ODM, then NASA, you mold them to Kanu, mold them to Jubilee, mold them to any other different color sometimes, but the chemical composition is the same.
It's not about me as Nurdin Haji, but it's about the constitution that I swore to protect. So when individuals attempt to hoard those powers and they want to be investigators and also prosecutors, then of course I have to defend that position, because that position is in the constitution and that's what Kenyans wanted.
I'll tell you what happens is that when you ignore court orders, you're creating and quoting anarchy. Then you create a very dangerous precedent.
A story is told of the first president of the country who also went to visit Mathare, presidential tour. And of course, he went to this place and he introduced himself. So one of the investors says, kuna jina kama yangu.
The weather
20 degrees and a bit of a sprinkle in some parts of Nairobi, highs of 24 and lows of 15. It's 18 in Nakuru, highs of 27 and lows of 14. Sunny conditions. It's cloudy in Nyeri at 17, highs of 23 and lows of 13. In Eldoret, 19 degrees and sunny conditions, highs of 24 and lows of 12. And we're looking at light rain in parts of Mombasa at 28, highs of 32 and lows of 24. Malindi is mostly sunny this morning at 31, highs of 32 and lows of 27. While Kisumu is sunny at 25, it'll go to highs of 30 and lows of 19. Kakamega is cloudy at 26, highs of 30 and lows of 15. Looking out into Kampala, mostly sunny conditions at 23, highs of 28 and lows of 17. Dar es Salaam is rainy at 28, highs of 31 and lows of 24. While in Lagos, light rain at 27, highs of 34 and lows of 26. It's also clouded over in Johannesburg at 16, highs of 22 and lows of 14, and raining for most parts of the morning. Cloudy conditions at 24 in Kinshasa, highs of 30 and lows of 23. It's sunny in Beijing at 12, highs of 12 and lows of -3 going into early early evening. 5 degrees and mostly cloudy in Paris, highs of 7 and lows of 3. And there's a haze over London at 3, highs of 8 and lows of just 3. It's raining on this New York morning very early on Monday. It'll go to highs of 17 and lows of 4. So what are we looking at? Huru Highway going out into the city quite slow. Started early and is still continuing in that fashion. Landis Road taking a big hit from the stadium roundabout coming off of Jogo Road as you get towards the Kamkunji roundabout. Huru Highway still jam-packed, giving off from the Lekoni interchange, also going then towards the city. CBD is jam-packed, and what was looking better on the Thika Superhighway between Muthaiga Square and then getting to that area just before the city, that is quite packed. Still in traffic hour, and it continues this morning. Let's keep an eye on things, all right? SpiceFM KE through the morning. Text on 40127.
www.showmax.com. That's www.showmax.com. If you log on to Showmax today and if you subscribe, you can actually get first 14 days free trial. Okay? You get access to a lot of good content, whether it's your favorite shows, movies, live streams of your favorite sporting activity. You get all that on Showmax. Get 14 days free trial. And then after that, if you choose to go ahead and subscribe, you get 1 month free. City, again, 1 month free. What does that mean?
It means you don't pay for that 1 month. That's what it means. It is free. But these freebies are many. There's 14 days.
14 day free trial.
Kabisa. Yani, you want to see how it works, you just log on, you get it.
And you try it on all your devices, you see, okay.
It works. Now, when you've decided it works, then you ask yourself now, which of these offers do I take? Okay, because it's like there's an offer for every pocket.
Yes.
Yes.
Starts from 300 shillings. Just go ahead to Showmax. Get Showmax Pro for 1,050. And this one gives you access to live streaming of sports.
The thing that I liked about it most, as you said, the sports thing. And they also have a lovely array of showing for young people. Yes. It isn't just sports and movies and documentaries. There are things that young people can also enjoy.
Children's programming has been taken care of.
Yep.
www.showmax.com.
Spice FM, Nakuru. Mature, intelligent talk every morning. Spice up yourself. Mornings done right.
It's 23 minutes to 10.
FM.
This is Kenya's biggest conversation. We are talking about disaster risk management in the country. We see so many disasters. We see some coordination that is wanting in the country. We have a policy. Do we have a body that has been established by law to deal with our disasters? James, good morning.
Good morning, Eric. Good morning, Du. Good morning, CT.
Good morning.
Good morning, sir.
Yes. First, I think let me pass my condolences to the families of the bereaved of this unfortunate incident. I will not call it an accident. It's just an incident. While it's true you've said about disaster risk management and all those other things, there needs to be some better coordination. But I think we're missing a point. How did that bus end up inside the water? Someone made a decision to do something that was not right. We do not talk bad about the bereaved and all that, but the driver made a decision to do something that was not right. So in as much as we may have all these good policies and bodies and everything, it comes down again to your personal commitment and your personal safety.
Right.
The driver, it is reported that the driver sat out for 2 hours, obviously got overwhelmed by impatient people who are going for a bash. And he made an unfortunate decision.
They were going for an event, yes.
Yes, they were going for a party, let's call it. Right? So,
yes.
So he made a decision, I think, based on pressure. So what we just need to do, and especially in all this season where we'll all be up and down, if you see water flowing, just wait it out.
Yeah.
Just wait it out. There are so many videos of kamikaze people and all that. Why would you want to join someone who wants to kill themselves? Just wait it out. So we might have all the bodies, we might have all the plans, we might have everything, equipment on the side waiting for the disaster to happen to repeat. But it always goes down to your personal decision. I am not wading through this water.
Right.
And yeah.
Point made, James. Thank you very much.
Thank you, sir.
Have a good day. Rotich in Mombasa. Good morning.
Good morning, guys. How are you?
Very well.
Thanks. Yeah, it's been a sad weekend, and let me also pass my condolences to the affected families.
Yes.
Now, there's, I usually say that accidents don't just happen. They're a chain of critical events.
Yes.
This accident that took 33 lives started happening way back in 2019 when the bridge was supposed to be built, or rather upgraded to a modernized bridge. But the leadership failed in doing the same, or rather the department that is responsible for ensuring that our roads are good, our bridges are good, failed to do so. Come within that same 2019, the local MP requested that the funds for disaster management be increased, so that to mitigate, or rather so that they could manage such issues that were coming up. Remember, this river had taken up some other lives.
Yes.
It had swept some other cars.
Yes.
So the local, probably there was a cry, and the member of parliament requested for funds to be increased so that they could establish a disaster management thing, or rather system there, to help when such incidents have happened. The same thing, the funds were never increased. The bridge was not a structurally sound bridge was not put up. And on the very day that the bus went under, these parties, the driver, the passengers, and the bus itself arrived at the banks of the river. They saw that the waters were flowing, and it's a lot of water. They stayed put for 2 hours. Rather than waiting more for the water to completely subside, so that they can tell how wide the bridge is, or how extensive the damage on the bridge has been by water, they decided to cross. And unfortunately, they did not make it to the other side of the river bank.
A series of events.
Accidents don't just happen. They are a chain of critical events. But this one, it started way back in 2019. Had there been a structurally sound bridge that had been built then, this would not have happened.
Indeed.
Yes. Had there been, what the MP was calling for, an increase in disaster management funds to establish a very robust disaster management in that place or in that region, this would not have happened. Maybe, let's say, maybe would have lost 1 or 2 lives, but not these many lives.
Not the severity that
lost.
we had.
And when it comes to disaster management in our country, it is so poor. It is so poor because nobody knows. No one knows, even for the NYS or the military, or at what point they should come in, or at what point they should do what. It's until they are called
chain
upon.
of command. That's true.
Yeah, there's no chain. There's no central point of
That's indeed
communication.
True. Rotich, thank you very much for your call. Let's hear from others as well. Asante sana. Washira.
Yes.
Good morning.
Morning to you. Morning, Titi.
Good morning.
Good morning.
You well?
Very well.
Very well, thank you, sir.
Yes, I'll be very brief. there's this element of lack of patriotism in our members of the public service. Like when you go to church and you find that everything is in an orderly manner, there are ushers, whatever, everyone is willing and very happy to help you. You go to a government office and you find it's the direct opposite. And with this, without this sense of patriotism in our public service, volunteership is very low. So even in this disaster management, it requires a lot of volunteers. People who can be able to sacrifice their time to be of help when there's a disaster. And the second issue is about the technological advancements. Because, for example, if that river was like that, there should have been someone to notify and the general public not to use that bridge. But we don't have that. We are busy just giving a set of nation addresses that take 2 hours and there's nothing else.
True.
2
Thank
points
you very
made.
much.
Thank you, Ashira. Anthony in Mombasa, good morning.
Good morning, my friend.
Morning, Anthony.
Morning, Anthony.
Well, I'm Anthony, MCA aspirant from Ziwalangombe, Nyeri constituency, Mombasa County.
Yes, Anthony.
It has taken me almost a month before I call you because we were dealing with the party registration. I've been in Nairobi for almost 1 month now. My suggestion was, first I want to lay my condolence to the family that have missed their beloved one.
Yeah.
That incident, actually, it was out of impatience among Kenyans. I saw it in the portal of Mombasa Kanu aspirants, but it is so unfortunate. Those people should have waited for at least the water level to go down. And among the drivers, I don't know which school of thought they went to, or it is just a matter of doing something to be seen. I don't understand. The driver himself should have come out and told the passengers that I am not crossing this place because of the risk ahead of us. We have to wait for a little longer. And if at all you are impatient enough, come out and board another vehicle. In fact, there are some vehicles inside their posters in those vehicles written, if you are in a hurry, get out of the vehicle and start on foot. You see? Yeah. Kama una haraka shuka uende. But you see, we Kenyans, we are impatient. Even when we go back to political arena, at this particular moment, you'll find that someone has already declared his support for someone, even without listening to this person's, manifesto. You are not interested to know the manifesto of this person, but you have already decided I will support him, irrespective of what he's going to do for other people. And that is the impatience that people are having, especially Kenyans. I don't know how long it will take for us to learn that we should be doing something based on some statistical evidence, or this person has been doing, or this person is up to.
You'll have to be
I want
patient
to
on
put
that.
it here. I want to put it clear for Kenyans. This coming general election, the way Madam, one of your presenters said, this lady, I wish you were my elder sister. You would have taken me very far.
Okay.
I wish Kenyans should come out clearly and know very well what is hindering this nation from getting the right leadership. You see, for example, we aspirants now, we are looking for signatures. MCA, we are needed by 1,500 registered signatures.
Yeah.
You see, if you are registered in that particular area, you have to get their signatures, 1,500. Some people are not even ready. In fact, someone is telling you, I'm going to support you, I'm going to vote you if you win a nomination. but I am not ready to give you my signature because they believe from back of their mind, they know that when they sign for you, he has already voted.
Yeah, they have voted for you.
So you see, or you give him or her something at least to give you that signature. You see where we are messing. So
very,
it
very,
is
very
impatient among the Kenyans. That
Thank
is
you,
killing
Anthony.
this country.
Asante
Yes.
sana.
Thank you very much, my friend.
Have a good one. Thomas in Nairobi.
Yes, morning.
Good morning.
Good morning.
Today I don't have a proverb. Yeah, I think I left that to CT for a while.
Bas.
Yeah, because he seems to be doing that better than I do.
Kila mtu na kazi yake.
Now,
Let's talk about disaster.
Now, there are two things, and they're all related, and it starts with the discussion you're having early on in the morning, and the role of politicians, manifestos, or lack of it. The unfortunate thing is that we don't vote on the basis of what people promise. Rather, it's because I'm voting this individual because I don't like the other person. And that gets us into the whole situation in terms of service delivery and how we deal with disasters. Look at that particular area. See, there is a bridge. It's not the first time that we had a disaster in that particular area. Something happened in 2018, 19, I think last year as well.
Yeah.
If you look at from the photos, the videos, you can see that some work started on a bridge. And for some reason that stopped. It goes back to the kind of leadership that we elected because someone slept on their job. And at the county level, do we have disaster mitigation committees or frameworks at that level? Because at the national level, we have the NDOC, the National Disaster Organization Committee or something like that.
Which is an ad hoc one also. It's an ad
It's
hoc
actually
one
a
as well.
statutory. No, it's a statutory body. It was it's legally mandated. I think there is an act from.
There is no law, boss.
Yeah.
There's no law.
Actually, for establishing a NDOC.
Yes.
Nope.
There's been bills in Parliament to establish a National Disaster and Risk Management Authority. There's one currently before the Senate. NDOC is a body that was established, it's a multi-sectoral, multi-agency body that still does not have legs to stand on.
Well, actually,
what we have is essentially a council where you have representatives from this place and the other.
Others. Unless we are mistaken, though, Thomas.
No. It was actually established in was it 98 or thereabout by an act of parliament. But then there are a couple of untidy things that have been happening. But then, as it is, it exists. Whether it's effective, that's a totally different question.
Yes.
Whether it responds to the contemporary needs, that's a totally different question.
Whether it's guided by policy is also something that's very, very different.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And you see, what now becomes important is that we have the counties in place. Do we have disaster mitigation mechanisms in place at the county level? I feel that we don't have that. Because programs and projects ought to be developed and implemented also with that in mind.
Yes.
So that when we are looking at floods and famines and what have you, already there should be mitigating mechanisms in place so that we don't talk about floods ravaging every year and so on and so forth.
Yeah.
That should be ingrained in the projects that we implement, so that a bridge such as that one and several other bridges in Ukambani should have been dealt with from a very, a long time ago, because we know that these things happen.
That's true. That's true.
Yes.
Thank you very much, Thomas.
Okay.
And indeed, yes, the NDOC was established by an act of parliament in 1998 after the El Nino, and then it just became, that coordinating. Its job is at the national level. Now there have been attempts to create an authority that cascades all the way down to the counties and a lower level. Peter in Roiro.
Good morning.
Good morning, Peter.
Now, I'll be short. My contribution to this issue is that under the fourth schedule of the Constitution, the county governments are mandated to have disaster management plans.
Yeah.
And in Kitui County, issues to do with flooding or flash flooding, it's not something new. So here you expected that they should have been able to read or understand the meteorological department warnings regarding the current rains and be able to plan accordingly. And in this case, for instance, identify all areas of risk regarding flash flooding, and they close those roads. So that now, if anybody now acts beyond that, then it will be a question of heroism on the part of those who don't want to follow the rules. Because we see this in developed countries, and they have things to do with hurricanes or flooding, and their systems move in speed to warn the residents or to warn the public. Don't use this
and to help evacuate and
yes, especially if it's before the disaster happens. Because here we are talking of a scenario where it was totally avoidable.
Yeah.
For instance, if the county management was there, since that the story says that other vehicles had used that road before this bus crossed, you should have run there to be able to warn and say, don't
everybody else
use this road
until
please just stay away. And they put all manner of boulders or signage and everything. I've used Machakos County roads before, and I remember being told that what you see here, this is actually a seasonal river, and where we are passing is that it's a road that just goes right through a driver bed.
Yeah.
So in my mind, I'm telling myself, what happens when it rains?
Yep.
So this is a question of each county, because each county knows where it hurts the most.
Yeah,
and
that's true.
Each county knows these challenges have been there in the past.
They know about this particular spot.
It's not start telling the national government, no, you should have assisted us here. No, that should have been a very simple, quick intervention. Thank you. Have a good day.
Thank you very much, Peter. Justus in Kilifi.
Hey, good morning.
Good morning, Justus.
It's been a while. You guys are doing a wonderful job as usual.
Where have you been?
Where have you been, Justus?
I've been trying to copy Muga's hairstyle. It needs a lot of investment.
Are you telling me that all this time you've been away, that is all you've been occupying yourself with?
And it has been an extraordinarily dramatic failure.
Paul and Ugu. Let's talk about the disaster in about a minute.
Yes. The disaster, it's important to have this authority. Yeah? But sometimes I feel like we may end up excusing negligence with once we close it in disaster. Where I'm saying this, when you look at that bridge, first and foremost, it had all the signs of failure. And because a bridge like that should have been having a lining, the rails, they should be even warnings, right? Which means the authority responsible for road and bridge maintenance should be held culpable at the moment. Because without that, if those signs were there, for example, you see where you watch the driver trying to maneuver and then goes into the wrong end. If somebody had taken his work seriously, there could have been a rail there, there could have been a warning there, so that at least whoever is driving there at least knows what he may face. That's one. Secondly, it's good to think of disasters, things which come from nowhere. but this was predictable.
Yes.
So who was responsible? The county has one of the very active and very visible governors, right?
Yep.
Is it that all along she was never aware that this breach was a disaster waiting to happen?
Can't be.
And then my last question could be this. When we think of disaster, we think about prevention and response.
Sure.
Were there any preventive measures the county, the local, even the traffic policemen in that area, had they even warned the people, don't go this direction? Was there any sense of warning a visitor going to that direction? There is a bad breach downhill. It's flooded right now. Don't go there. It's important to have the authority, yes, but the authority will be dealing more with response.
Yeah.
And why don't we take the measure of preventing by respective agencies and institutions taking responsibility and doing what they're supposed to do? You always talk about this. You have been talking about the housing crisis,
Thank you,
the
Justice.
collapsing houses.
Asante sana.
Anyway, thank you.
Thank you. And call again and again. Thank you very much.
I will now that the project has failed.
Very good. Seti, as we conclude today's proverb.
Yes. Siku njema huonekana asubuhi. I would argue. Siku mbovu
Pia.
inaonekana kama
hii.
Yes.
Thank you very much for tuning in to Kenya's biggest conversation, The Situation Room. Join us again tomorrow morning at 6 a.m. to 10 a.m. And we'll be here until Friday, every day, 6 a.m. to 10 a.m. Have a lovely day. It's now 10 o'clock.